Hello and welcome to On The Esky, a sports podcast where we like to wrap up the week that was in sport, have a few Denzel Frothingtons and talk some absolute dribble. We are live tonight, that is right, live on YouTube and live watching the third session, day 2 of the Adelaide Test match. Australia in a commanding position. I do believe, boys, back in the trial days in my spare room, sitting on the floor, we did watch a live podcast, and England got absolutely demolished. So hoping for a little bit more. India.
More of the same, please.
India got demolished. My mistake by the Australians. The Ashes. Game 2, Test 2, day-night in Adelaide. Australia really have the foot on the throat. They've just declared at 473. We did have some COVID drama at the 11th hour with hot boy Pat Cummins ruled out, deemed a close contact. We'll discuss that. Also, excuse us if we're covering some of US sports and you'll hear a sudden yes, Starkey, or take that, you vitamin D deficient pom, whilst we watch England hopefully get dismantled with a swinging pink ball. Speaking of US sports, we will preview NFL Week 15. Saturday night games means Sunday morning games here into the fourth day of the Ashes, if it's still going, that is. Steph Curry becomes the NBA's most prolific three-point shooter. He did it in a lot less games than Ray Allen did. Absolute bungle in the Champions League round of 16 draw, plus UFC 269 and a crazy finish to this year's F1 season. Please remember, we have timestamps even if you want to skip sports.
Some Tim Tams if you like.
Some Tim Tams as well. You can on YouTube, or if you're nuts all things sports, just listen to the whole thing. Please subscribe on YouTube, follow on Instagram. On my left, I have the fastest research man in the Southern Hemisphere, Monkey Magic, and on my right, I have the man whose house we reside in currently. Sean, how was your week?
Oh, excellent. And just going back to that intro from what we talked about last week, leading into this week for the potty of all the big sports that were happening. What an absolute craziness, madness, like the storylines coming from all over the globe from all the different sports. It was an excellent week, and we're going to cover all that, as you said.
Christmas starts early in the sporting world, doesn't it? December, you've got Test cricket down under, you've got sort of the spicy end of the NFL season, you got the NBA starting to take shape, we've got Champions League, as mentioned, and an absolutely nuts UFC 269 and F1. So can't wait to rip into that. Monks, my man, how was your week?
Jeez. Yeah, good. Last week of work for the year, so now officially
finished
on holidays. Yep. We'll probably still have work emails and stuff to look at, but
You're going to have all of that on January 3, I'd reckon.
No, that's a public holiday. It's 4th, bro.
4th.
Yeah.
There you go.
but yeah, ready to kick off the summer of sports.
Let's fucking go. Omicron has,
I think it's worth mentioning right now before we get stuck into all the sports. But as current, while we're live, it is really getting stuck in a fucking whole bunch of sporting leagues. Not to name a few, with the NFL being a big one. Mm-hmm. I think they're up over 125 players tested positive COVID in the week. Really getting stuck into the Browns, Rams, and it was the Chargers the week before. Then there's the NBA. I think the Nets played with 8 players this week because they had several on COVID. And throughout, it's going through the league as well. The US kind of struggling with it. The EPL as well.
Yeah,
it's got a massive
banging off in England, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. And then there's like local for us, Newcastle were in pre-season, Newcastle Knights, and then they got it through the club, and then it's actually spread in Newcastle, and they worried up to like 500 cases from that kind of one hotspot.
80 odd cases in one nightclub.
Yeah, so
would have been a little bit of passion strangers, I reckon, going on there. I hate to speculate, but it tends to happen on a dance floor at Saturday night, 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how the sports react to that.
Yeah.
And I think your favourite saying is the money talks.
Money talks.
Take the NFL, for example.
Money talks.
No cancelled games currently. They're all scheduled to play. So, yeah.
Money talks. Novak Djokovic has got an exemption to come to the Australian Open, whereas we've hung out our own lady, Olivia Gadecki, that she doesn't want to get the jab, and they're saying that she can't play. What's the go there? Absolute double standard if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, well, where there's
medical exemption. Novak has inverted commas for our listeners. Medical exemption.
Yeah, the Joker exemption. It doesn't sound like she applies for that, and she doesn't want to get the jab. So too bad, you're out. is the way Australia, Tennis Australia, I'm assuming he's done that for the Australian Open. So bit of a rough there, but like you said, money talks. Joker draws all the eyeballs back. I think he's defending, isn't he?
Oh, he'd have to be.
But he's still also chasing the record. So if he wins that, sets the record for most Grand Slams by a male tennis player. So
different rules for different fools, it would seem. Anyways, this is a sports podcast, but I don't really like talking about COVID that much. Any of our regular listeners would know that. The only coronas I like are the ones that go down your throat and not in microscopic form. Boys, we like to shout a beer to reward someone with, usually an excellent week in the sporting arena or someone that we want to wish some good luck. Monks, I'll start with you. Who would you like to shout a beer this week?
Jeez, yeah, not sure if he meets any of the criteria.
He needs a beer. He needs some good luck.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. Original thought was to shout out the Omicron. Just probably give him a case just to settle down and stop wreaking havoc around the world. But instead, I've gone with Corey Norman this week. Decided to hang up the boots yesterday. So after 228 odd first grade games between Broncos, Eels, and St George, he's decided he's not going to play on any longer.
Interesting, because there's a lot of chat about him possibly going to England. I wonder if the old COVID situation maybe had something to do there.
Wave 4 maybe scared him off a little bit.
Possibly. I mean,
he's only 30 years old, so he's got time.
That's right. Yeah, maybe he just has a sabbatical, and we might see him next year. But yeah, shout out to Corey Norman. A little bit of an up and down career, one might say. Highly talented half. You don't want to bang on a guy too much, but possibly didn't quite live up to some of the expectation given his natural ability. That is for sure. But in your retirement, mate, I don't think you have to tell a rugby league player twice. They'll have a few of those beers. Speaking of shedding Omicron a case, I reckon get rid of that case. Get on the hard stuff. I'm talking some 60% shit. Knock that shit out. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it for a long time. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Face down in the concrete.
Face down in the concrete. Like that punter at Adelaide Oval yesterday. Check that out on social media. Or wherever you get your funny videos. A bloke who sculled 2 beers right in front of the police. A great place to do it. And then, I don't know if he had a seizure or something, but he literally went face down into the concrete.
He needed a nap.
He needed a nap.
Yeah, I'm assuming he had more than just those 2 beers.
No, maybe someone spiked him. Who knows? With very reminiscent of myself falling into my bed of a Saturday night. But yeah, thoughts and prayers with that guy. Hopefully his head's all right today. Sean, who would you like to shout a beer, my friend?
My shout a beer goes out to Oscar Piastri. He was the winner of F2. So he was I guess you'd call world champion, the driver's champion for Formula 2 this year. I think he won it I think officially he won it a couple of days ago, but the season ended over the weekend with the F1 season. Big shout out to him, of course, being the Australian, so we'll back him. He's now an Alpine reserve driver, so he doesn't have a seat for next year. The chat is he'll potentially replace Fernando Alonso when he actually retires following the year. But they have already started practice, and he's already doing some lap times in the new Formula 1 cars for next season. Getting out there with Danny Ricciardo, getting 2 Aussies on the circuit is very nice for us F1 fans that are also Australians. So big shout out to him to get that win, and hopefully we'll see him in F1 very, very soon with a seat of his own.
Do you think it's likely that he gets a gig in 2022?
So will he get a drive next year? Hard to say. It really depends. Maybe Corona this year, because he's the reserve driver. Sure. So something needs to happen to one of the other 2 for him to get that spot, which is Ocon and Alonso, and
Yeah.
both of them made it through this season without any issues. So I'd say probably not next year. He'll do lots of practice and testing to get ready, and looking all likely he will be Alonso's replacement, with the very likelihood of retirement for him for the following year.
Shout out to Oscar. Italian Australians, mate. Like to do things, don't they?
I like to drive fast.
Not me. I haven't had a ticket since I was about 20. So there you go. Possibly because my car doesn't have the power to do it at the moment. I would like to shout out Australian mogul skier Matt Graham. A beer, he smashed up his collarbone pretty nastily this week. In the moguls, boys, they have 2 jumps, the moguls in between. Usually you see big wipeouts in the jumps. These were just some horrific conditions. It was snowing sideways. And he had a big stack and snapped his clavicle in half. Beijing is a tick over 2 months away, enough time for that to heal. So thinking of him and silver medalist from Pyeongchang, we'll see how he goes without, he won't be able to ski very much in the lead up. So I'll be shouting Matt Graham a beer. Don't mix it with your oxycodone. Boys, it is the first over here for England's innings. We are watching Mitch Starc. Surprise, surprise, Rory Burns did not face up because it seems like...
In his head, rent-free.
Big rent-free, no rent here. It's like renting a house in Detroit at the moment. They pay you to do it. Rory Burns is very, very timid when it comes to Mitch Starc, and he's about to face up. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of the Ashes, let's start our cricket coverage, lads. Where we left you last episode, okay, it was day 3. England were...
Poised.
David Malan, Joe Root, they were both in their 80s. We said on this podcast, check the tape, last Friday night, it all comes down to this first hour. Do Root and Malan ton up and, fight back and get England from the improbable into, a position to possibly pull off one of the greatest upsets of all time? Or do we skittle both of them in the first hour and then the rest follow? Guess what happens? 1 brings 2, brings 3, brings 4. It was over very quickly. A lot of working folk were very upset that the game started on Wednesday, and the actual live vision that they got to see on the Saturday was about an hour and a half. No, that's not doing it justice. 2.5 hours on the Saturday. Not much of it fell on the weekend.
20 runs for the Aussies to chase down, and Bucks Harris survived throughout that. Much to the surprise to myself with his unfortunate run of form, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Yes. Also interesting for Carey to get the nod. So Warner had that rib issue. He wasn't allowed to bat until 5. So they said, look, Alex, probably capable to open the batting anyway. But when there's 20 on that you require, not too much pressure. Carey did get out and
extra day
hurt his average a little bit.
Warner,
and Burns has hit Starc for a 4. Curse of the commentator there. That's what he should have done. Ball 1 in Brisbane. He'll be feeling a lot better about that. England 7 off their first over. Good luck, boys. Only 490 odd to go.
Yes, and so
80 odd.
So Australia won that first test. That's what we're alluding to. Very, very convincingly.
9 wickets.
So from that, and we mentioned it in right at the intro a minute ago about COVID fucking sports leagues. They also got the Australian cricket team. What happened to good old Paddy Cummins, the captain for Australia?
We talk about the COVID, and in one of my group chats, it was like this was the moment where it was that Arthur meme where his fist starts clenching. There's when it really gets you angry. It's when it takes out the Australian fucking cricket captain, mate. Thought. Obviously, it's a pandemic. We don't want to make too much light of it. But when it takes out the Aussie cricket captain, it does grind your gears. Pat Cummins at the 11th hour, the news was coming out yesterday. Yesterday morning that the night before, Wednesday night, he'd been in an Adelaide restaurant and had been on the table next to someone who had tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, and got their positive result while they were at the table at the restaurant.
It begs a lot of questions, doesn't it? If you're waiting for a COVID result, why the fuck are you in a restaurant?
It's Adelaide's protocol process. Like they've got to, because he tested negative before he flew over, and then you got to get retested when you get there.
I thought you had to isolate in that bit.
No, I think the assumption is you're okay. But yeah, then he tested. What was also funny was Starkey and Lyon, I believe, were outside on a table having dinner. Mm-hmm. But since they were outside, their class is casual, so they were okay. So we could have been in real big trouble if they were dined inside with Cummins.
Indeed.
But yes, they luckily were outside for that.
It stinks. The whole thing stinks, doesn't it? The night before.
The Barmy Army did confirm, though, it wasn't one of their supporters.
It wasn't them. It wasn't them. I was saying to you boys, maybe old Michael Nisa is fucking sick of. I think he's been in the squad for the last 15 tests. I was saying, just bowling rock after rock after rock to Smudge and Labuschagne and Warner in the nets. He's going, fuck this. I'll take out Hot Boy Cummins with a little bit of the COVID. Not even in a malicious way, just a close contact. Not even going to get it. That's how he's justified it himself. Of course, I kid, but yeah, it's Nisa gets his first start, and Josh Hazelwood. We were right in thinking he was a little bit tender from watching his bowling performance in England's second innings. Last week, turns out he's got a sides train.
Yeah. Well, we also got to confirm that Richardson was the first choice and did replace Hazelwood first. So Nisa would have missed out and would have been the net bowler again. So like
really plays into the conspiracy theory,
definitely big time. The other conspiracy theory kind of leads into is Stephen Smith back as captain. I think this came from you, James, as I pointed it out. It was like
bit more of a stretch, but.
Yeah, one way to get back into the captaincy. It was just a little bit of cough on the current captain, and out he goes.
That fairy tale return.
Baby, you're the one. You still turn
Peps,
me
tell us how
on.
you feel about Steve Smith being the captain
again. I feel whole, mate. I feel whole. I feel like it's 2017. I feel like a pandemic is a thing that we watch on movies and doesn't play out in our actual life. I feel like sandpaper is used on timber and not on cricket balls. I feel like I've got 100,000, possibly more brain cells than I currently have in the last 4 years. Mate, it's something. Look, Paddy Cummins, devastated, taken out at the 11th hour. Feel for Paddy. But something about Stephen Smith being the captain, with all his idiosyncrasies, with all his glove movement and adjusting of the box and head wobbles and essentially cricket autism, which makes him a very, very good cricketer and possibly one of my favourite people in the world. One part of me just feels really warm and fuzzy.
I just want to mention Jai Richardson's first over there being a maiden as well. Nearly every rock going down there was dangerous. Like it was either drawing him in or making him play at very, very dangerous from Jai Richardson, and another good reason of why he's in the test team.
This is a perfect over. He's found his line. He's just started outside off, and then each ball he's just kind of moved it more and more and more towards that off peg, kind of that fourth, fifth stump line. And Hamid had absolutely no idea on about four of them. 4 slips and a gully in. How good?
Yeah. Well, that's the role he's got to play in this one. Is he's got a line and length. He's the Josh Hazelwood replacement. So be consistent. Make sure you keep him in that position. Don't let him score runs. Keep the economy down and put the pressure on, because England are in a tough spot because. What did the Australians do? They went out and scored, 400 and wicket.
Burns! Burns! Rent-free, ladies and gentlemen. Rent-free. Oh, my goodness. Burns, well, congratulations. He did get that leg lance.
He faced 3 Stark balls. And
he's made 4, and he has schnicked it up to that man that we're just talking about. Oh, baby. Smith at second slip. He's calling the field, and he's eating Stark catches for fun. See you later, Rory.
Just gives him a little look at you. He's like, I got you again. See you later.
Big problems with England's batting outside of anyone named Root, who also... in that last test, dismissed in the 90s, does not have 100 in Australia.
So I think then the team that hasn't struggled with the batting was the Australian side, and we'll get back to that. Or do you want to cover the England side? So quickly their changes. So Mark Wood and Lynch both got dropped. Leach, of course, was heavily smashed all over the park. Yeah. So fair, I guess.
8 and over. He was going for the butt of a lot of jokes. Jack Leach gets dropped. They go with no specialist spinner.
Yeah. So Anderson and Broad come in. Of course, 1,000+ wickets between the two of those guys. Root did bowl a fair bit, so that was clear to see. He did get a very good wicket in Head as well.
Yeah. Head played all around that. In his, not to take away from Joe Root, did maybe get him with flight.
But you said it before, a Root is better than Head, so I'll re-throw out your joke there. But
little crass. So they didn't have to put my name on it.
But they've gone with the four
That's
seamers there. They've got Stokes as well. And then, of course, Root there's their, I guess, first choice spinner in this. So what do you think of that side? Do you think it's better than the one they went to the Gabba with?
Experience-wise, yes. Pink ball. Anderson, we saw he was very economic, was hooping it around.
Yes.
Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson have had the Australians on toast in past tours to England. But again, just like Joe Root, it's a bit of a different ball game when they come down to the sunburnt country. They tend to struggle a little bit. Yep. I think the pink ball may have been, playing in the minds of the England selectors.
I think it did. And when we think of pink ball, what happened in the last day and a half, it was moving a lot. So they were definitely getting plenty out of it, plenty out of the pitch, a lot of seaming. But I guess it goes to the Australians and what they did with their batting performance, that they were just a little bit ahead.
Yeah, Labuschagne and Warner absolutely fought. Warner was one of his first 32 deliveries. I don't think I've ever seen him bat like that. And I don't think he has ever been
I think he
was
like 3 from 74 as well.
So, absolute mission.
Yeah.
And I can speak from experience from this past Sunday, playing a little bit of Sunday social. Balls hooping around. I arrived late because I was playing golf beforehand. So I got sent down the order to bat 9. I was sooking a little bit, and then we lost about 6 for fucking 48. So I thought, better go try and have a few throwdowns, stop sooking, go do a job for us. Missed out on the first 2, and I thought, this third one's getting the treatment. Full toss and took my stumps. So well done. Marnus Labuschagne batted for 400 minutes across 2 days. I batted for about 68 seconds.
Yeah. And when your team needed you the most. So.
They did need me. They did me. And it meant a lot, Sunday social. We're up in A-grade Sunday social this year. There's a few guys knocking down the door for BBL contracts.
Anyway, that's enough about you. Back to the Australians. Marcus Harris, we mentioned before. Didn't do too much. I think he faced 28 balls in total, 20-something. Gone for 3.
Yep. Trying to pull, didn't get enough on it. An absolute screamer from Joss Butler, diving to his right.
The only decent catch he would make.
And we'll get to that in just a second. Leg slip in place, perhaps a little bit of a plan. I don't know. The Australian public is screaming for his head. Death by media.
He's got one of the worst averages for an opener. So.
Ever, yeah.
I think he's doing a really good job, though, because he gets out and then Labuschagne comes in. So, and what's Labuschagne done is he's almost got 200. So,
yes.
So, I think he's doing what he needs to do enough, if I put that on. So I was thinking, who should be Warner's opener partner? And I was like, well, just make it Marnus, make it Labuschagne. He's out there often enough as it is.
He's often there in the second over. So, a little bit of dark humour, if you will. Yeah. I did see our unofficial sponsor, Sportsbet, post something regarding what's your excuse to the boss to knock off early this afternoon in regards to catching the cricket. Yeah. I thought it was a little bit mean, but I'll say it on the internet anyway. I'm Marcus Harris. I need to knock off. All seriousness, look, part of me really feels for the bloke. Yeah, I know.
Struggling.
Yeah, I know what head noise is like when you're not making runs. When you're the Australian Test opener.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine.
And he doesn't have the form either, and the shield as well. He just hasn't had runs or balls. He was handpicked by Warner to be his partner in the opener. But
not just Warner obviously advocated for him, but
time.
Cricket Australia obviously sees something. The board of selectors sees something. Be interesting.
And they hate Usman, so that's probably the big one in there.
There is something weird going on with Uzi and the selectors. Has 8 Test centuries at an average of 40, nearly 43.
Well, you'd think after, depending what happens in the rest of this test and what happens in the second innings, if Australia gets to that point,
is he going to have a chance to prove himself? There's exactly. A lot of runs, on the board there for the Aussies, and England currently 1 for 12.
What was his score in that second innings? Did he get 5?
He was not out for not much.
Yeah, so he's got like 3, 5, and 3. So not. And I think he's only got past 20 once in his opening starts. So doesn't have a great record.
He had an unbeaten 9 of 10, striking at 90. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Just needs to think. It's we need 20 runs each time. We just need 20. We just need 20. Look, I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well. I can't imagine what it's like to have every dickhead that can't make runs in Sunday social cricket, speculating and calling for your head. I want to see him do well. The more kind of logical, fact-based part of my brain kind of says, well, there's a lot of guys there banging down the door. So it'd be interesting to see, will he get a chance in the second innings? And probably and what does Cricket Australia do?
Yeah, and probably luckily for him, he hasn't had to been relied on that much when you've got guys like Warner, Labuschagne and Steve Smith all getting very close to hundreds or tunning up in the case of the loose bus change. So
loose bus change and Smudge, they were trying to think of blokes that as a batting partnership average more combined, and they were looking at Bradman. Did anyone that Bradman batted with consistently, and you just had to find guys that kind of averaged 35 and batted with Bradman, because both these blokes averaging over 60, it's kind of unprecedented for both those guys to be making that many runs. Definitely no qualms with the Australian middle order at the moment.
No, not at all.
Going back to Josh Butler, took that screamer off Marcus Harris. It's a funny game, cricket, isn't it? You can't buy a run. You got pressure, and Butler takes a catch like that, and then he drops 2 absolute dollies, especially that second one off Labuschagne.
Well, the last one right at the end of the night.
Yeah, late last night, Labuschagne in the early 90s, just standard, one step to his right.
Oh, perfect. Chest height.
Just below chest height.
Should
be eating that up.
Yeah.
Tough times there for the English wicketkeeper. A little bit of conjecture today. Is he the best gloveman in England? I think probably the obvious answer is no. What are your thoughts, boys? Do you pick... Because batting-wise, especially white ball, I know this is a different ball game, but we've seen what he can do in white ball cricket. Does being an excellent stick justify you being a kind of mediocre gloveman? Where do you draw the line there?
It's value to the team. So if you're getting 50s as like an average, or you're batting really well, then you're going to take a mediocre gloveman in that regards. If you're not,
Josh Butler's average.
Yeah, if you're not, and it's like he's averaging 10, 20, pretty low, goes out there, whacks it a bit, and then gets out, and then he's dropping sitters like that, which in the end, the last one in the end didn't cost them too much because Labuschagne got out. Only made 12 more.
Yes.
But
it didn't cost them in this one, but I think I heard on ABC Grandstand today, shout out to Ian Chappell, an absolute mop. Runs since Butler's dropped someone, 100.
Yeah.
So far this series, so he's cost them 100.
So that's probably the difference you kind of work out is
he's going to go
the difference
and make
score.
tons pretty consistently if you're going to drop dollies, aren't you?
Yeah, if you're going to drop it and they go on to score 100 runs, well, you need to go out and make up for that and score 100. So if that difference is not, clearly managed, like coming out to parity, and it's heavily in favour of, say, the opposition, then you're not doing your role, and you're probably going to be looked to be moved on.
Josh Butler, test average.
His test average is 33.3. He's made 2 centuries, 18 50s in a 5 year span. No, 7 year span. Jeez, quick math there.
Accountant on my left. So 33.3. That's an excellent average because it does make this quick maths easy. So each drop catch, he's costing three. It's costing him 3 times what his average is.
So in that case, can't be dropping the ball.
No, has to eat them up. Alas, we do get to this England second innings, which we will watch throughout the potty. But Australia well on top in this Ashes series. India, what's our news with Virat? ODI captaincy gone?
Yeah, well, more the circumstances, because I think it happened a couple of weeks ago where they actually the decision was made that he was stepping down as the white ball format. But
it was speculation, I suppose, more than decision.
And I think
at that stage.
I'm not so sure what the situation was, but Virat kind of came out during the week and said, I said I was stepping down from T20. I told the BCCI that was going to be the case. A couple of hours went by and then they called me back to say, all good. And you're not going to be the captain for the one-day squad. And I think it was like, all right, whatever. Like, fuck you guys. You really haven't communicated to me what the reasoning or anything like that. I think they were kind of the selectors that were very much thinking about let's have a white ball specialist captain. That's what they're after, but
Rohit Sharma to take both,
to take over essentially. But
both skippers.
I think it was more the disrespect to the long-term time captain, and it wasn't kind of a simple change in the guard, kind of working that in. It was more, hey, if you've given one up, we're going to take the other one off you. With no real communication for any reasoning why.
Seems to be a common theme of what we've seen.
Big cutthroat, yes.
Down under with boards happy to hang out former captains out to dry Hamid has just left a pink rock over his off stump there from Mitchell Starc. Great leave. Any news there, Jim?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at reports here. So yeah, he was contacted 90 minutes before the announcement was made. So selectors did give him the heads up beforehand, but again, not too much time beforehand. And apparently, it was just one line right at the end of the press release. It was like they just tried to slip it in there. By the way, the most famous man in India is not the ODI captain. That's it.
Yeah, so it created a bit of uproar, of course, with all the big Indian fans and with all the media and stuff like.
Well, he's a huge. You go ask your wife tomorrow who is the Prime Minister of India, and see if they can answer that. And then you ask them who is Virat Kohli, and I'm sure they'll be able to give you an answer.
Maybe not my wife, but yeah.
Well, I suppose
maybe mine because I bore her to death with all the cricket chat. How was your day? Oh well,
yeah, Kohli was out there hitting runs again.
That's right.
That's it.
Well, we haven't had that conversation for quite some time, mind you.
I suppose this is all speculation, but you'd think that the BCCI would want to keep this pretty low key, particularly in terms of like the locker room, just try and keep media attention away from it.
I think that was the idea.
But you're
trying to
with
shuffle
Kohli,
it through.
you can't do that sort of stuff.
Just Kohli, cricket, India, low key. None of that. None of that plays into those 3 words
100%.
right there.
Yeah.
Look at this. Yeah. 4 slips in a gully. Oh, this is Test cricket, boys.
Go well. Got him on the ropes. Got to move that ball around early and see what we can get. Get a couple before the
Imagine if Jai takes 3 or 4 while we're watching. Ooh, we will find out shortly.
I don't think we're allowed to put that on the internet if that happens.
Yeah. You can. I've seen a few videos. If we're on the same channel here.
This
might be behind
YouTube.
I need to subscribe to something.
A different kind of tube, if you will.
Yeah, there's no hub in this name. So
hub, cricket hub, dribble hub.
Dribble hub. There you go.
Jai hub. Definitely dribble. Big Bash, a much better week, I thought.
A lot of runs scored.
Yeah, a lot of runs. The first week, for mine, a little lackluster. We spoke about the Australia A game going concurrently with the
parallel.
With the Brisbane Test. That obviously sucks 11 of your biggest stars in the Big Bash out of the format. This week we saw hundreds from big names: Mitch Marsh, Glenn Maxwell, And Josh Phillippe just one off. And he hit the winning runs with a 6.
Yeah.
He hit the winning runs with a 6.99 knot.
Yeah. Well, it kind of made Maxwell's 100 irrelevant in that game as well.
Yeah. Well, how many times do you score 100 in a T20 game and lose? We did see it a couple of times in the IPL. But
it helps when the
quite a
opposition
rarity.
has Phillippe and he scores 99. So
He is...
He's been unreal so far to start the season.
Well, the Shield season, unbelievable. And now following it up with Big Bash. I've said it on the Esky before. I'll say it again. Will play a lot of cricket for Australia. Unbelievable talent. Monks, if you wouldn't mind just bringing up a ladder there. The Sixers, they're looking good. That three-peat possibly on the cards. Obviously, cricket is a fickle game. Just, you know, if you...
I was just reading your last dot point there about Western Australia.
Oh, yes.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We shall get to that in just a second. The Sydney Sixers, they're looking good. They're 3 wins, 1 loss on top of that Big Bash table. The Perth Scorchers just behind,
undefeated so
behind
far,
them, undefeated, always good.
1 game behind as well at the moment.
A game behind. Can't play games at home.
Yeah, so that was kind of the big news with Western Australia being, of course, the west of Australia, locking their borders to the rest of the country.
The independent state of Western Australia. The annexed state.
Yeah, very much.
Self-annexed.
What's a comparison like the Texas is to the US? So
I'd say Alaska. Like it's so far
I would
removed.
have thought Alaska's more like Tasmania, but anyway.
Yeah, well, anyways,
Yeah.
really clutching at straws.
Geography on the Esky. So
Actually, quite a strong suit of mine,
Yes.
geography. You can ask me some capitals after after the show, if you will. Madagascar and Tananarivo. Anyways, Mark McGowan, as I like to call him, Mark McCoward. Shout out to the Facebook comments that gave me that one this week. He said that the Perth Scorchers aren't allowed to play home games.
we'll shut the border. So essentially they can't come in and out willy-nilly, which of the league is like, well, I can't send other teams over there because we can't do the quarantine. We can't do we can't do all that. So sorry, Perth Scorchers, you can't play any home games this year. Sucks for Perth fans. They lost the test already. So not a lot of major sport happening in Western Australia.
So
for the
apparently
foreseeable future.
a lot of this is stemmed from the A League. So the Perth Glory, they had a case of COVID. So because of that, their whole team has to pretty much go into quarantine all through Christmas. Now Mark McGowan
says no.
says no sport.
Yes.
Is that really like you didn't want to say it like Mark McCowan? I'll say it. Mark McCowan.
He's a mop.
He's a mop. He's an absolute mop. And you know what?
Yeah.
Shout out to Hilltop Hoods. They got a song about Adelaide, 1955. How Adelaide's stuck in 1955. They wrote it about the wrong fucking city. It's Perth that's stuck in 1955. They're scared of everything. You know, the Russians, nuclear warfare. Well, let's all be scared. That is the way that WA's been run at the moment. The poor cricket fans of Western Australia, I did see a very... I'll say cute video of it was a teenage boy, but quite reminiscent of myself as a teenager. He lives in Hobart. He's got all his Hobart Hurricanes gear. He's in his Cricket Australia shirt, and he's going absolutely mad on TikTok. Yes, Cricket Australia. Yes, you've made the right decision. You made the right decision. Absolutely pumped. Probably be at all 5 days. So the people of Tasmania.
I'm pretty sure the Scorchers as well have been based out of Tasmania of late as well. So they're playing a lot of games.
Is that what they're going to do? Is that going to be their home ground?
I think they're going to play a fair portion of their games this season out of Tasmania as well, which is a big get for Hobart.
Interesting, because that Scorchers team is legitimately stacked.
Yeah, well, undefeated, got one of the best run rates there currently. So
that bowling attack.
They made the final last year, didn't they?
It was Sixers. Ooh, you're testing me here. Was it Sixers Scorchers?
And Scorchers lost?
I don't think so. Max, you're going to have to work double time here.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
This shows how much attention we pay to the Big Bash League. I do love a bit of T20 cricket, but when there's a 130-year-old competition on, which inspires emotions that you shouldn't probably feel as a 30-year-old man, when that's on... The Big Bash kind of,
it's secondary. And it is
exactly.
It becomes a bit of a long season as well across the summer.
Yeah.
By the end of it, you're kind of drawn out and you've already like, I've already gone through 5 Test cricket. We got fucked by India this season. Like, hopefully next year when the Ashes happen, it'll go better. Like, it can become the back of the mind trying to forget the Gabba Test.
Are you suggesting that you were crying yourself to sleep a little bit?
I know you were, so.
Man, I'm passionate.
Yeah. We're cuddling and trying to get over it. Monks, did you get us a competition? What was the final last year?
Yep. So,
Good memory.
Yep.
I thought it was.
And I don't think there's been any announcement as to where Perth Scorchers will play their home games yet. So we'll keep an eye on that.
The 1955 Scorchers. Speaking of 1955, and speaking of mops, Ian Chappell, boys, I know.
Is he there with the Lizards? Was he there with Buzz and?
Yep. He's gone to official Buzz Rothfield status. Congratulations, Ian. Ian, meet Buzz. Ian. Absolute mop. God, it's hard to listen to this man. Obviously an accomplished cricketer, not the best cricketer in his family. I'm the best cricketer in my family.
Do you think it's changed over time? Do you think early 2000s?
Yes,
like he was
I agree.
better
He's getting grumpier and grumpier and grumpier.
He's getting older. So.
He's getting older and older and older. Today, Marnus Labuschagne scores 100, and Ian Chappell goes on a 5-minute rant about how him and Steve Smith spent too long celebrating the 100. Then after that, a no ball from Ollie Robinson dismisses, inverted commas, Marnus Labuschagne.
Yep.
He takes his time walking off the ground. Ian Chappell whinges about that. He's taking his time. Have a listen here, you dinosaur. He's looking up at that big screen, which probably wasn't invented when you were fucking around. And he's looking to see if there was a front foot no ball, which turns out there was. And he went back out and made another solid 1 run. And all this man can do is take a positive and turn it into a negative. He's my mop of the week. That might be a new segment on the Esky. The mop of the week. Ian Chappell, congratulations. You're a mop.
Yes. Well, we do need plenty of mops to pick up all our dribble. But yes, Ian Chappell was the mop of the week for us.
Just pat someone on the back. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
He's faced over 300 balls to get to that 100. Like, he's been there for fucking forever.
And he fought it out.
Yeah. Like, it was it wasn't, he's been 50 balls. He's just smashed it. He's done it in half an hour. Like, he's been slow, like a hard slog, working his way to a
patient.
Yeah, exactly.
All
the things that Chappell didn't have.
Well, he was pretty handy. Just,
I meant like as in patience. He didn't have the patience in this regard.
Oh, yeah.
Just let him celebrate and, stop being the old white.
Wow. Brought race into the equation.
Well, yeah.
It's the old race, so you can go.
The old
I say yours because I'll take the eye ties.
I meant my comparison, the old whites in the NFL and their direction. I'm using the same comparison here in the cricket.
Speaking of Italians, do you know that Donald Bradman had Italian blood? Look that shit up. That is true. How
much percentage? We're talking
10%. Like a very, very little bit. Look it up. Donald Bradman, Italian. I was arguing with a few of the boys this weekend. They were saying, what have Italians achieved in the cricketing arena? And I said, hello, Tasmanian fucking Michael DiVenuto, cricketing superstar.
Yeah.
The list kind of runs a little bit thin after that. One wonders where Philippi comes from. Possibly. Anyways, Don Bradman, Italian heritage. Have a look.
So his great-grandfather, Emmanuel
Danero.
Yep, there you go. One of the first Italians to migrate into Australia in 1826.
Well, he's the Don.
Donaldo Bradmano. He's a very good at the cricket.
Monks, can you get us the final score in the Ashes? And I think that'll finish up the cricket before we jump into the NFL. What are we... Did I see it 2 there?
Two for 50. We had the fucking Big Bash standings up and we missed a wicket.
Yeah, and Joe wrote in there, do you just want to scroll that back a little bit to the dub? Yeah, thank you.
Fucking Big Bash.
Jai Richardson's first as well by the looks of it.
Yeah, it does look like Jai Ho.
Oh, you've gone right back. This is the first one.
It is.
We can watch Burns get out.
Let's watch it again.
Burns get out. There we go.
Oh, yeah. That's a good rock. That's a good rock. Made him play, swinging away from the left-hander. Smudge goes, num, num, num. That's Christmas.
What do we got here? Let's
Hamid.
Yeah. Just hit the 15 and we'll jump through.
Excellent listening here. Excellent listening. Boys, they're in strife.
Well, they're 2 for 15, aren't they?
2 for 15. Follow on will be 290 odd.
Well, they'll see out the night. They'll definitely.
You confident? There's an hour's play left. I hope they see it tonight.
I hope they'll see it at the night. And
You gotta hope.
go a couple more mugs on the 15s. It's
got to be this over, right?
no, there could be another over in between that or not.
They're 1 for 12 at the moment.
This is stunning listening.
Yeah.
Let's just let it play. Let's just let it play and see what happens. Yeah, boys, is this going to be 5-zip, do you think?
Well, I saw a comment in our live stream that said that Australia was going to win this 5-zip. And they were actually looking for a Roy Burns versus Joe Burns head-to-head, probably for worst opener. You'll look alike, but I think Joe's probably going to do better than Roy is. Anyway.
Worse. Can I have Joe Burns test average, please? Joe Burns did himself a solid.
I couldn't make the Australian A team.
Yeah, but
maybe he's a bit old. Maybe
they've moved on. Well,
yeah.
And I'm sorry if we're repeating ourselves, but Joe Burns, Sean Marsh, Moises Enriques, all overlooked for...
True.
So, yeah, definitely looking at youth. He does look like me a little bit, doesn't he? Strange. Wish I could bat like him. 37. Call it 37.
Yep.
That's not
37.
too bad. It's a better average than Harris has. So.
Yeah, and it's a better average than every English batsman not named Joe Root. You can fact check that if you want. The Richies are there. Oh, last night it finished it was so close to finishing on the Richie score. It was 2 for 221. There was one off.
Just keep skipping through, James.
Being a Richie score.
You'll know when it comes up. Yeah, keep going. Oh, maybe it's Nasser's for us.
Imagine that. Into the attack early.
Oh, left that.
Hamid backing away very late. The ball goes over the stumps. They've called it a dead ball.
Keep skipping.
What about they were showing that Drongo before, standing behind the sight screen on the phone, smashing a 3.5% warm beer.
Oh, there you go.
It is Nisa.
Yes, and he's first over as well.
How good. Here we go.
Just spooned it. Just
Spooned it straight to Mitchell Stark at a short-ish mid-on. Michael Nisa gets a wicket in his second test delivery. Yeah. Unbelievable scenes.
Oh, there you go.
How good.
Great job taking out the captain with the COVID there, Nisa. All that blood, sweat and tears put into the nets, and he's got a pole with his second test delivery.
Yeah. Get us a live score, James. I think we're probably roughly 2 for 15.
It was 2 for 15 a couple minutes ago.
Imagine you go live in it.
So we've got the both
three.
We've got the two debutants on currently in
Richardson and Nisa. Richardson hasn't had a run taken off him yet. Oh, no, one. Yeah. And 4 overs bowled. Four overs bowled, and Richardson's gone for his first run.
Yeah. Root, what was that, 4 from 8 as well. So probably the most positive of the lot so far, and that didn't look too bad. Just picked out head as the fielder. Good fielding there.
He's the only batsman that gives you any kind of grief as an Australian supporter, doesn't he?
Yep.
Old Route 66, get your kicks. Get your ton is what he would be thinking. Get them out of this absolute hole. 2 for 16.
Needs to.
Yep. We'll keep an eye on that as the podcast goes on, but we will conclude our cricket chat for this evening. Let's go into the NFL, one of the weirdest segues in the podcasting world, but 2 sports that we quite enjoy and at a really good time of the year in December. The Coco, as aforementioned.
We alluded to it. If 75 on Wednesday, 100 the next day, 125. The numbers are going up. Rams heavily affected. Von Miller got on the list today as a big name.
Yes.
The Lions last week were missing almost a third of their starters against Denver. The Browns are getting absolutely fucked this week. They got their third string quarterback in Nick Mullins, which is not bad. Third string quarterback for them is going to be their starter.
He's got the start. Nick
Mullins. Because Keenum and Mayfield both out. But the NFL don't give a fuck. The TV money, all that matters. So games will go ahead irrespective. Hey, if they're going to let Denver play a wide receiver quarterback, they're going to play all the games. So that's besides that, they've changed a whole bunch of protocols for testing and for their process. Unvaccinated players will come back faster, et cetera, et cetera. So the league's trying to deal with that situation. But the big news was good old Urban Meyer. He got fired after 13 games for the Jags. Had a 5-year contract. Didn't last the first season. Really came to light. I think there was a news story article released that Trevor Lawrence was saying, we've got to stop the off-field drama, et cetera, et cetera. 10 minutes later, another article dropped about how Josh Lambo, the former kicker for the Jags, had talked about how in warm-ups during one of their games, Meyer came up to him and kicked him and said, you better make your fucking kicks, dipshit. So, drama there.
That was like preseason as well. So
this
has been going on from way back at the start of the season when he first...
Shit culture.
Yeah,
that's
big time shit culture.
Just lost the locker room.
Big shout out to Pat McAfee, kind of saying, "Hey, if that happened to me in a warm up, me and Vinny were probably throwing hands." Vinny
Testaverde.
No, Vinatieri. Kicker Vinatieri, and
he's the best kicker to ever play the game.
And probably just as old as Testaverde.
And Pat McAfee's teammate. So that's where I was going with that.
McAfee and Vinatieri.
There you go. So
back at the Colts.
Yeah, with that, Owner Khan, he came out and released a statement like, "This is not what we want." We'll get sacked.
We don't want our coach kicking our players.
I'm sick of all the drama. Besides the poor record, the new Jags were going to be bad. The open competition with him and with Lawrence and Minshew through preseason kind of took away from Lawrence. The Tim Tebow.
Yeah, all the shit that happened
Experiments, the Ohio stuff.
Off the
field. And then this is the latest thing. And the Mike Vrabel handshake after the game last week,
dirty. Yeah. And Vrabel used to be an understudy to Meyer.
And it sounds like Meyer said...
Have a look, Vrabel and Meyer, they do have some history.
Yeah. Meyer reportedly... weekly would tell his assistant coaches that's big lightning in the background there. Assistant coaches, they would be fired on almost a weekly basis. That they're all bums. Where have they ever won? They don't have a winning record like I do. Considering he's had more losses this season than he had his entire college career. But college different beast to the NFL. The NFL will chew you up and spit you out. So. Meyer done. I think they asked. You might need to check who the interim head coach is. I think it's Byron
Leftwich. Yeah.
No. Byron Leftwich is. I'll get to that. No, it was Brian McDowley or something like that. Is the interim head coach, one of the assistants there. The media told him that depending on his record, he could have a better winning percentage to end the season than Meyer had, and he didn't answer that question. He just smiled and
as a trap.
Yeah, big time trap.
Star Wars. It's a trap. It's a trap. Don't answer that shit.
So the Brian Leftwich bit was then, very early on talking about head coaches for as the Australian team actually is going off the field after that lightning, so they're going to postpone play, which is a bit unfortunate. Huge for England. They're going to love that.
Conspiracy theory, England called God to start lightning to save them from tonight's misery.
I wonder if they'll come back out. The lightning delay usually takes half an hour.
And we've got about 45 minutes of possible gameplay left.
Yeah, so that could be the day done.
Done.
So head coaching search, they changed the rules for head coaching so you can start interviewing within the last 2 weeks of the season. The Jags will get a head start on everyone. So people that have already been talking about Brian Leftwich being the obvious one, current OC for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, working with Tom Brady. If you want to, boost Trevor Lawrence, try to up his skills and try to build him up, etc. Maybe that's a good fit. Also completes the circle, of course, being there. I think he was 4 years. The starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars after getting drafted by them. Interesting.
Pretty good off the top of your head there, yeah.
I might have looked this up a little
03 to 06, 4 years.
Interesting that the Ravens were going to draft him and were going to trade with Minnesota, but the Ravens took too long, so they defaulted on their pick. So Minnesota had to make a pick, and then the pick after, the Jags actually picked them. So you know how they have a clock, they got to pick within that time frame.
Yeah.
They didn't meet the clock ran out on them. So he ended up going to Jacksonville and had a mediocre, uninspiring kind of career, and then kind of flamed out of the league. Really found himself as an offensive coordinator though,
been killing it
after having a excellent college career at Marshall, and I think there's even a movie about that.
The current Buccaneers offensive coordinator, so has a Super Bowl ring.
Yes.
It'd be nice to call plays for Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, Robert Gronkowski, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown.
Makes it easy for you.
You know what I'd just say? You guys go do you.
It's a big lightning.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And a big plane flying
in the background. Absolute scenes down there.
So a few other options have been already thrown out. There was Jim Capewell, who was the Lions head coach. The last head coach to take the Lions to the playoffs. He did it for 2 years. Actually had a above 500 percentage, I think, as Lions head coach.
Jim Caldwell.
Caldwell. There you go.
Hasn't been in the league.
He's currently coaching college, I believe, is where he's at.
Started coaching in 1977 at Iowa.
Jeez.
How about that? Formerly, as you mentioned, Detroit Lions. 4-year head coach, also at Baltimore, Indianapolis, Tampa.
Touchscreen. Can you refresh that, James? Yeah. So, and Tony Dungy was another one. I don't think he'll ever leave his media gig.
What would you do if you?
I'd rig Tony and say, who should I hire, and then do that.
No, if you're Tony Dungy and you're getting paid good money to go talk and speculate and not have any pressure on you, would you rather do that job or go be the head coach of one of the biggest shit shows in the NFL?
I think the answer is obvious.
Yes.
Depends. Khan's got a lot of money, so maybe if there could be. Talks. We've been saying that. Money talks. And it depends if Tony's got that itch, which I don't think he does, because he's been out of the league for a pretty long time, in relative speaking. I think the league likes the young, up-and-coming offensive coordinators.
It seems to be the way, doesn't it?
Brian Leftwich, the history there, Jags, it all kind of connects.
Even head coaches, we've seen Sean McVay and Cliff Kingsbury doing things there with the Rams and Cardinals. Maybe that opened an old
Another
fossil.
thing to shit on Urban Meyer, he was asked at the press conference after the game of the week about one of his defensive players, and he was like, I think he got out a couple of snaps and I think he played all right. He didn't play. So he didn't even.
So he didn't know the guy's name.
No, he knew the guy, but he didn't play any snaps in the game. He didn't actually play, and Urban didn't know.
So he hadn't been watching.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, he hadn't been paying that much attention. And then they asked McVay about some situation as a comparison, and he
sharp.
Super sharp, like photographic memory of absolutely everything that happened. So, complete different situation, or different understanding of where they are in the game. So.
Is Urban Meyer the Ian Chappell of the NFL? A mop.
This season, yes, he's been the mop and running joke, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you see that a lot with, I guess, college football head coaches that
they can't make the
NFL.
Transition, can they?
Game.
Overall, it's been pretty bad. Harbaugh, I think. Jim
Harbaugh,
and what's the Seahawks guy? Pete Carroll was the other one.
Yeah,
they're the two have been really successful. Everyone else really not so much. Like even Nick Saban. Didn't do too well for the Dolphins. Had like a below 500 average, I think, or right around it. So it's tough. It's like playing Alabama every week. So it's tough in the NFL.
That's it.
What about Bill Belichick? Sorry to cut you off there, Monks. Cliff Kingsbury said during the week a lot of people have got him as coach of the year, and Cliff, played it cool. A little kind of modest flex, and he said every year that Bill Belichick is a coach in the NFL, he should be the coach of the year. It's pretty amazing what the Patriots are doing. We'll get to them in a second.
We will, yeah.
What did you have for us there? Before I rudely interrupted.
That's all right. So just back on Jags. So the offensive coordinator, Darrell Bevell, will be interim head coach. So he came across to Jacksonville this year. He was the offensive coordinator for the Lions for the last couple of years and was interim coach in 2020 for a bit. So a little bit of experience in that interim head coach space at least. So
Or Darryl Bevel.
yeah, we'll see what happens next year, I guess.
Makes a good toasted sandwich, I heard. Bevel.
All right, let's talk some footy.
Well, just quickly on the Poms.
yeah.
This is real English conditions now. It's starting to rain in Adelaide. We've got pretty much everyone's vacated. All the Aussies are fucking sick of it and watching us dominate for two and a half days. And with the whole Barmy Army in there, they're win or lose, they're on the booze. They're all singing. They're all singing. They're high spirits. Probably haven't been home for 2 years. That's probably why they're so happy. Unbelievable scenes. The Barmy Army, they just get stuck into those cold, amber, frothy things, don't they? And enjoy life. Something that I think that's one thing that that the Australian spectators could possibly emulate a little bit more. Let's talk NFL, week 15.
Yep.
We've got Saturday night games, Sunday morning games. You can wake up, dust off your hangover. There's back-to-back games in the NFL, starting with a big AFC matchup. Two potential teams that might be in the playoff hunt. The Las Vegas Raiders take on the Cleveland Browns.
What about you going to skip over Friday night football?
Yeah, well, I forgot about it.
Friday football for us, Thursday night.
I forgot about it because I didn't get to watch a single down.
Unlucky.
Highlights, though. Let's go back. Apologies. Rewind. Live podcasting. Chiefs and Chargers did play today.
Yep.
My shout out to Ross Big Dog Chilton. He said, take the overs. Didn't get a bet on. And the overs did it quite comfortably. The Chiefs now have a 7-game win streak. We spoke last week about Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill being a little quiet the last few weeks.
Both got over a ton in this one. So,
and Kelsey was like nearly 200. Can you get those numbers up, please, for today?
160,
190?
191.
There you go. 191, 2 tutters. And what was Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill.
He was
142 yards.
I think it's 34. Mahomes threw over 400 as well.
148. Yeah.
148. So
Mahomes over 400.
Yeah. They needed to as well because the Chargers actually got ahead in this. And
they're all heading into the half.
Justin Herbert was looking not too bad after throwing an early pick as well. They ran the ball pretty much at will as well. I think they averaged over 5 yards between Justin Jackson and
Austin Eckler.
Yeah, so and Eckler I think had a pretty decent game in this, but in the end it went to overtime. They tied it up at 28. All the Chiefs chasing in this, but then I think they lost the toss and can't give Patty Mahomes the ball. It goes down there, scores a touchdown. Actually, I think it was a long touchdown for Kels, and job done. That was it.
Yep. Yeah, 34-yard pass.
7 in a row for the Chiefs.
It's also it's massive for the rest of the AFC West because it leaves everyone else in contention.
They needed the Chargers to lose, don't they?
Yeah, everyone like Chiefs are probably going to be the 1 seed coming out of the West. So they're now competing for that wild card spot. So, but Chargers, they still competitive. They are a very good football team.
They are.
Probably should talk about the nasty injury that happened to their tight end.
Donald Parham, hate to see it. Not really a contact injury. He was diving in the end zone to try and catch a potential touchdown ball, and he had kind of one of those whiplash injuries where
he twists and then lands on his back, and then the back of his head hits the ground pretty hard.
Head goes back. I had a concussion back in the day from the same thing. Got sacked.
Doesn't show.
Got sacked. Is it concussion? Is it beers? Is it a general lack of intelligence? Who knows? One could speculate, but who knows? But anyways, that whiplash back of the head hitting the ground, nasty, and then he went limp, the poor bloke, which you hate to see. Goes off in the neck brace.
Well, stiff as a board. He went stiff. So, which is for all UFC and fighting fans, pretty well versed. You know, a knockout like that can potentially make you stiff as a board. And he was, and Eckler kind of come over and touched his arms and was like, "Oh wait, this guy's." He's fucked. Get the coaching staff over here. And he had some convulsions as well. And was really struggling. It was bad. And pray he's all right, but really weird injury considering, of course, he's wearing a helmet, but non-contact, the back of the head to the ground. Just shows the kind of force these big boys have, especially going to the ground, and kind of shows. That's why back of the head strikes are illegal in the UFC because it is a very susceptible area in the body, so hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, thinking of him and his family. Watching a loved one sort of go through that. Yeah, it is quite distressing. But hopefully there's no structural damage. That'll be the first thing that they'll be checking today or overnight over in the US. Hopefully that the C-spine's all intact, and then you can kind of deal with the concussion from there. But shout out to Donald. We're thinking of you from down under.
Before we get into Saturday games, we'll just say it looks like the Ashes, the game for today has been called.
Done for tonight.
It's raining and the covers come on, so all done cricket-wise tonight.
Closing time.
Yes. Probably saved the Pommies. They'll be quite happy to go to bed tonight.
Well, you'd rather go out there when the sun's shining and the ball's hooping less, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Probably robbed us of the test.
I think we'll be all right currently.
I tend to agree with that statement there, Sean.
All right, week 15 preview. Like Pep said, we'll kick off with the Saturday games.
I got too excited. Saturday night game, Sunday morning.
We got two games. The Coco game being the Raiders taking on the Browns.
Yes. So you mentioned Nick Mullins will be starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Kareem Hunt, I believe, is out as well with an injury. So it looks like it's going to be a heavy dose of the Chubb, potentially with 1,000 carries in this one.
Can you look up... full Chubb.
What?
Make sure Save Search is on.
Case Keenum,
Case Keenum said we prefer to have a full Chubb than a half Chubb. Something along those lines.
It's good to have a full Chubb because he's fit and healthy and he's going to be good. Yeah.
He's got a full Chubb.
Case, of course, knew what he was doing. He 100% knew what was going on.
Case.
The Raiders.
I'd like to split a case with Case, I reckon.
The Raiders, on the other hand, they did come off an absolute smacking by the Chiefs, and I think they had 5 turnovers in that match.
Yep.
Big time.
They got smoked. Like really badly. We were kind of thinking take the overs, but we didn't kind of think it would just be the Chiefs just lit it up. And didn't really have to do too much offensively, like you said. The Raiders turned the ball over. One bright spark for the Raiders was Hunter Renfrow. He had 13 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. He has 30 catches in his last 3 games. He's number 12 in fantasy.
Yes. Marks, can you find out if Waller is playing?
Making you work overtime here,
that's probably my last one. Because
Waller the baller, it's a big in, it's a big out, whether or not.
I'd had tipped Cleveland during the week, even in spite of Mayfield being out, because I knew they were going to have a full Chubb, and that Keenum can definitely hand it off to Chubb in this one.
A full Chubb.
And I'm hoping they've got Nick isolated somewhere, so he's not going to catch anything from anyone else. Because they're
loving it.
Yeah, they're going to need a full Chubb in this one. I'm starting to lean towards the Browns have a lot of people out in this one, but maybe I'm hopeful. I'm sticking with because I've got a full Chubb in my fantasy team, so I'm going back in the Browns in this one. What about you boys?
I think you should just type in what Sean just said into Google and see what happens. Full Chubb fantasy.
Thank you.
Hard one here. I'm gonna go with the Raiders. Browns COVID hard. I know Baker's copped his medicine this year, but a third string quarterback, even with that powerful running game, hard to pull off.
And the way OBJ's been playing the last couple of weeks, maybe he wasn't the problem.
Interesting to see. We'll get to the Rams in a second, but OBJ, 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks. If you don't mind, at the team that used to play out of St. Louis. Raiders for mine, although not super confident.
Should be a close game.
Again, hate to go back. The stadium is literally... Adelaide Oval is empty except for one bay of Barmy Army people.
Yep.
They're going to get their beverages in. Monks, what about you? What was your tips and odds?
Yep. So quickly on Waller, he is still questionable. Hasn't been practicing from reports I can see. So
like
probably
chances.
game day. Don't like his chances. Yeah. So earlier in the week, I had tipped the Browns. They were a slight underdog at $2.08. I thought that would be a smoky for the week.
Blown out, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has blown out. So I have jumped ship and I have backed the Raiders as well. They are favourites at $1.47. Browns have pushed out to $2.71 at the moment. We do have a line of 3.5. Total match points of 38.
38 is nothing. Is nothing.
Browns haven't scored points though.
True. Could be a bit
They've
of
played
weather.
2 games against the Ravens though, so
Could be a bit of
famously
weather
grinding
in
games.
Cleveland, but 38 is legitimately nothing. Interesting to see here, courtesy of ESPN Footy Tips. If you're looking to sponsor a podcast, we are all ears.
Actually, yeah, I did notice that a second ago.
The Cleveland Browns have 76% of the tips, despite being the underdogs.
I think that's because that's the Aussie ESPN, so they have no fucking idea what's going on. So.
I'm assuming a
As
lot
per
of
us.
Well, I think we're all inside the top 1,000 of that 13,000 league. So
Are we?
Yeah.
And I forgot to do my tips week one. That's pretty good.
So I kind of anyway. The next matchup for Saturday, we've got the Patriots taking on the Colts. Patriots, of course, 9-4. I think number 1, aren't they?
I believe so.
Yes.
I believe so.
And the Colts have been rising up the ranks after their slow start to the season.
This is the old, AFC, gatekeepers, if you will, was the Colts inevitably often getting beaten by the Patriots in the AFC Championship game.
Brady versus Manning, that's what
Brady
we're talking
versus Manning. That man, Tony Dungy, we spoke about before. Dungy versus Belichick. A lot of that, when we were kind of first getting into the league. Obviously, it's 2021. Belichick's still there, but the quarterbacks are Mac Jones and Carson Wentz. But 2 teams that are definitely going in the right direction in the AFC. I'm looking forward to seeing this on a Sunday morning. 2 teams with stout defenses as well, boys. The Patriots defense, like their numbers speak for themselves.
Right.
And the Colts, led by Darius Leonard in the middle there. We did see that weather-affected Buffalo Bills New England Patriots game. This one will be very different under the roof in Indianapolis.
Well, we didn't need to talk about, Mac Jones, what was he, 2 or 3 to win that game?
Yep, 19 yards. Yeah.
All the handoffs in the world.
Yep.
That's the game plan the Browns need this week.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
We expect this one to be a bit more free-flowing, a little
Bill
bit more
Belichick,
offense.
Coach of the Year, et cetera, et cetera. I've backed the Patriots because I just think they're going in the right direction. And I've been all over Mac Jones since draft day. So
You're a big Mac fan.
Yeah. He's doing what we thought that end up doing. Put him in the right situation. Who did we think would have the best rookie year? We thought it would be Mac just because of the way that Patriots team works. And here we are. They're still 9-4 going to play playoffs. Didn't take them too long to retool after losing Tom Brady. So, goes credit to that organisation.
Indeed.
Pat's for mine for me.
That's it.
I'm going to go opposite to you. I'm going to go the Colts. I think under the roof with Jonathan Taylor and that offense, I think that offensively, that's where the Colts might have the advantage. Obviously, we saw the strength of the Patriots running game. Guess who else has a good running game? The Indianapolis Colts.
I saw that, I think today, I saw in the last 2,100 and something snaps for Quentin Nelson's, he's given up 1 sack. So
he is an absolute fucking beast.
Hall of Fame career incoming.
And let's rewind back to the preseason. We were saying, Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson were hurt, and they started slow, and those guys were hurt playing, and but hurt, missed a couple, but hurt, and now both those guys are in, and guess what? They're winning a lot of football games. So, two very, very good football players, especially Quentin Nelson at that left guard position. Monks, you will have the deciding tip in this one. Patriots or Colts?
Yep. I have gone Colts as well. They are favourites at $1.71. The Patriots are out at $2.14 at the moment. It's going to be a very close game with a line of 2.5. And we've got total match points of 45.5 with Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown at $1.50.
That's not bad considering he scored fucking 16 touchdowns or whatever it is.
It does face a very good defense in the Patriots, but it's still that's not too bad. I am quite enjoying that you guys are going opposite to me, so I hope you go opposite in the next one because I've picked the Cowboys to beat the Giants.
Yeah, I've got the Cowboys too.
The boys. They did withstand a little bit of a comeback from Washington football team. Mike, can you find out for me if the Taylor Heineke is actually playing in this?
The Heineken.
Because they had Brendan Allen, I think, play a little bit towards the end of that game.
He did, yep.
And they were a little bit struggling there. So Dak's been a little bit hot and cold of late as well. But they're still winning football games and they're 9-4. So Cowboys are doing something all right. Micah Parsons, I think, is up to 12 sacks on the year, something like that. So
I did hear he might be the first player ever, not just rookies, first player ever to have over 100 tackles and 15 sacks on the season.
It's crazy. Like his first month, he was averaging 10 tackles a game, and then they've just moved his position, and he's got a sack every game since then. So it's. Where do you play him next year? Do you take the sack numbers, or do you want him as your future man inside? Like
maybe Swiss Army knife. We've seen it on the offensive side of the ball. Taysom Hill moves around. Maybe they can move him around to inside and outside.
We'll have to see with the creative defensive minds over there what they come up with.
It's pretty crazy for a 21-year-old or 22-year-old to be that dominant straight away.
We knew he was an elite athlete.
Yeah, I don't think we knew he was going to be this good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to move him into a position where he's probably slightly undersized as an outside linebacker, but he's obviously doing a job. So.
Speed, I think.
Definitely.
Speed talks at that outside linebacker position.
Having said all that, Giants not going in the right direction.
No.
Currently, still trying to get their offensive weapons healthy.
Did Mike Glennon get the start in the end last week?
Yeah, I think he did. And that was going to be a question, is Danny Dimes going to play in this one? You don't need to get me an answer on Taylor Heineke quite yet because we'll save that for Washington.
Indeed.
So who's quarterback for the Giants? And then your pick, Monks, because Peps and I have gone Cowboys.
All right. I'll let you look up Glennon.
Yes.
Sure.
Give us your tip.
Try and see.
We'll see what's going on. All right, so I have also tipped the Cowboys.
Surprise, surprise.
Yep, a little bit hard to pass up on them.
Daniel Jones not expected to play this weekend.
So who's in for him?
Glennon, I imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Glennon, the likely starter against the Giants' divisional rival, according to a New York Giants community page.
Right. So odds
also via Yahoo and Giants.com.
Yeah, so neck injury is not great. So.
No. Thinking of Danny Dimes there, Mike Glennon, the big redhead. See if
he's got neck issues himself. What were the odds on that in your tip, Max?
Yeah. So I go on Cowboys. They are favourites $1.18. The Giants are out at $4.95.
$1.18 away is very short.
Yeah,
it is very short. What's that line?
So line 10.5.
Yeah.
Total match points 44.5.
Yeah. Don't bet on it.
You know what? It'd be a good game to talk about.
The game of the week, the round, whatever you want to say.
The toilet bowl.
The toilet bowl.
The
official toilet bowl.
Are these the two worst teams in football? Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars.
Talent wise, I think so. Record wise, there's the Lions.
Obviously, the Lions have a worse record.
Yeah, talent wise, Texans, I'd say, probably have the worst roster in the league, just because the Jaguars have football Jesus over there, so they've got at least something to work with. And James Robinson as well. Like they've got some talent.
A future, unlike us.
Yes. So Texans, they did lose to the Hawks. Davis Mills did throw over 300 yards. Brandon Cooks has still been playing pretty well for them.
Yep.
The Jags had 8 rush yards in total after they benched James Robinson against the Titans, and the Titans did it easy.
Unsurprisingly, that was the lowest rushing yards for the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise. Yep. I just said Jacksonville like I was Sean Connery.
I was giving you a solid pass. Keep going.
Sean Connery, 007.
Lawrence, football Jesus, was sharing the love, though, through 4 picks in this one. But as we said, Urban Meyer did get fired during where we're all struggling.
The beers, it's Friday night, boys.
Getting stuck in. We're just missing out. There's no cricket. Fire a head coach, good for 1 win. Pick the Jags. That's what I've done here.
It tends to lead to a win, doesn't it? Yes. I'm very concerned about the Jaguars on offense. 4 picks and 8 yards on the ground. You know what? I'm going the Texans, and I think it'll be.
They're gonna feed Robinson this week. They've already kind of alluded to it. He's our starting run back. He's gonna absolutely get all the carries in this one.
Sure. Honestly, I don't know why we're talking about this game so long. But the odds will surprise you. The Texans, a little bit of juicy value, perhaps even with the line if you wanted at punters.
What are the Texans at?
Yeah. So my tip is I've gone Jaguars as well.
Jaguares.
That's it. That's the one.
Come on, spit it out.
Keep going.
Non hablo inglés. Por favor.
All right.
Fuck me. Hurry up, Max.
Yeah. So, yeah. They are favourites at $1.43. The Texans are out at $2.83. So, the bookies out there must know something that we don't know.
They tend to, don't they?
Yeah, especially with such a large gap there. We do have a line of 5, total match points of 49.5.
49?
It's 39. Jeez. I need my eyes checked.
Yeah, you do.
Says the accountant on the end.
Okay, 39 makes it a little bit. How you going? 49, I would say smash that unders.
Yeah.
49, I'm not too sure. Also, you'd want to bet on this game to make it interesting. Titans Steelers, boys, possibly a little bit more interesting. The Titans, they
smack the Jags.
Did smack the aforementioned Jaguars.
We mentioned the handshake as well.
We spoke about the salty handshake between Urban Meyer and Mike Vrabel. I did say in that Titans-Jags game, I liked the unders. I said I don't think the Jaguars have much on offense, and the score is 20-zip. Did I put that? In a
did you put that in? Did you put that in your multi? No,
I didn't.
You bet on something else stupid.
So. I thought about it, and I lost money on some $5.28 leg. Trying to get myself out of the week-to-week paycheck kind of.
Make me a million.
That kind of gear. The Steelers, they're coming off the long break. They did have that crazy near comeback against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, so they'll be well rested. You'd want that for an orthopedic, or geriatric is the word I'm looking for, in Ben Roethlisberger.
Monks, can you find out TJ Watt's status? Because he did leave that game injured.
He was tender, but
I think he's going to be all right with the rest.
Yeah, he was on his feet.
Do I think it's going to matter too much in this? Probably not, because the Titans are going to pound the absolute shit out of the Steelers, is my think. They're going to, when I say pound, I mean pound the rock. They're going to run a bunch and see how they go. Maybe TJ Watt helps with that run game a little bit. But I think the Titans will handle the Steelers in this one. Even at home, low scoring. If it's around 40 points, I think unders.
Interesting thoughts. The Steelers defense, normally highly regarded. And then Dalvin Cook just goes out and absolutely pulls their pants down. The Minnesota Vikings offensive line, no one really... notable on that offensive line. They did draft the rookie Christian Darrisaw. They absolutely dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. I didn't really see that coming. And then the Titans, a team that loves to pound the rock, that they would have been watching plenty of game tape of what happened on Thursday Night Football. I agree. I think the Titans get the job done here, but I expect it to be close. I do expect it to be close.
That's why I said pump the unders, because I think it'll just be a grindy kind of battle. Either team probably not hitting 20, so I would say they'll probably have a low like 40s on the tips, on the odds there. Sorry, Max.
Yes. What was I going to say?
Tip and odds and whatnot.
Actually, no. I remember what I was going to say before all of that.
My name's John Burgundy.
Yes.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Yep. So Rabel was defensive coach
Full
under
circle.
Myers. Yep.
Yep.
Back at Ohio State.
I stand.
Yes, that's it. I knew I had something to say.
I think I had that in my brain the whole time.
It's Friday evening. Like, come on, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm on my second Red Bull and I'm still slow. So
It hasn't changed much. Keep going.
Nah.
If I'd had 2 Red Bulls, I'd be like, what, that's good, squishy.
What were the odds on that? What was your pick?
I have picked the Titans.
I knew that.
Yep.
Odds.
So this is actually kind of close. So Titans are favourites $1.86. Steelers are out at $1.95. We have a line of 1 point and total match points of 42.5.
Tis quite low. Quite low.
But I think if you're going to want to bet on one, I'd say unders in that one.
It's very low though.
It's in Pittsburgh. It is December.
Unders, as we spoke about it at length.
Avoid if as much as possible.
It's flip a coin. It's flip a coin kind of shit, isn't it?
It is. Also, TJ Watt, limited practice with his groin injury.
Limited probably means he's going to play. I was going to skip that. We're coming to Jets taking on the Dolphins game. Jets being 3-10, have a little bit of COVID issues. Elijah Moore, who's actually on IR, has COVID. So for them,
double whammy.
Yeah, yes. The Jets did lose to the Saints last week. Interesting. I think I put the note in there. Jameis Winston was the only quarterback to beat the current 2 number 1 seeds. Take that as you will. Thought that was an interesting tidbit. The Dolphins are 6-7, and they have been ascending a little bit of late as well.
5 in a row.
Yes. So Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields struggling as rookies. Unlucky for them, they didn't end up in an organisation like the Patriots, Mac Jones did. They do run into a Dolphins team here. I do like some of their talent. I believe Michael Carter is back off injured reserve. But if I
big in if he's available.
Yeah, and I think they got Coleman back from concussion as well. Having said all that, I have still picked the Dolphins.
The Dolphins' defense has been absolutely stout, especially
playing a lot better of late too. So.
Haven't they? I've gone the Finns. I think they do it quite comfortably. Speaking of unders, this might be one to consider as well, depending on what it is. Muggs, what do you got for us in terms of injuries, odds, tips, general shit chat, dribble, etc.?
Yeah. What do we say? Yeah, Carter's been full practice. What other names did we throw out before?
Tevin
Coleman's full practice.
Yep.
Should be good.
Yep, should be good. In terms of tips, I have tipped the Dolphins. They are favourites at $1.22. The Jets are out at $4.25 at the moment.
It's way shorter than I thought it'd be.
It is short, isn't it? Yeah.
So we've got a line of 9.5 and total match points of 41.
Again, another game that you might want to bet on to make it interesting. A big divisional matchup between the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles. Both teams are pushing. They're teetering, if you will.
You might need to find the health of both quarterbacks on this, because I believe Jalen Hurts is back playing in this, so no Minshew mania, though he looked really good last week.
Didn't he? Uncle Rico.
And Hurts has kind of been up and down. He's had excellent games and then follows that up with absolute stinkers.
He's very good running the football. A lot to be desired, I suppose, sometimes passing the ball. The football team did have 4 wins on the trot before I
picked them against the Cowboys in an upset.
It wasn't far off.
Yeah,
it was just that first half. Forgot to show up for the first half. Came back a bit in the second.
Did lose McLaurin very early on as well, which might have
head knock,
which might have shell shocked their offense a little bit and had to redo their strategy. And through halftime, that helped them out. But yeah, like you say, Peps, who have I picked in this? I think I've gone Washington.
You like Washington, don't you?
Oh, I've got Antonio Gibson. I really like Gibson. And he got like 13 carries last week. So in this one, if they've got no McLaurin, and if depending on if the Heineken is playing or not, he might also need to get all the carries like a full Chubb was a minute ago. I did go Washington.
The odds will surprise you here. I will go the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do not understand these odds. Monk's injury report, please.
He's at home, yeah.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts has been limited in practice. So is Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders. Fletcher Cox is back full practice.
What about the Washington quarterback?
Yes. So where are we? He is full participation in practice.
Very good.
So expect to start.
Yeah.
Heineke will be going.
Heineke, yep.
Heineken.
And McLaurin is limited practice, but is expected to start.
Yeah, if he's getting practice, that means he's probably out of the protocols, which is a good sign.
Yep.
So that's
Indeed.
That's it, yeah.
Check out these odds. They'll surprise you.
Yeah. My tip for the week is the Eagles. My tip for this game, rather. They are favourites $1.21.
Did you pick Eagles?
$1.20.
$1.20. That's way too short.
I'm not putting money on them.
No. What are Washington paying?
Yeah, the football team is $4.45.
Why are they so far out? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Don't know.
For two teams coming in 6 and 7, and the Washington football team are 4 and 1 in the last 5.
And their defense is vastly improved.
It seems too juicy to me, unless they're worried about something going.
I know you're a little bit thrifty when it comes to the punt, but surely that's worth a tenner, isn't it?
Yeah, $4.
I think so.
It seems crazy to me.
Just some facts on this. So Washington has lost each of their last 8 December games against an NFC East opponent. And the Eagles have covered the line in the last 4 of their 5 games as favourites.
Yeah, that's just statistics. That doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mate.
That's blasphemy at this end of the table.
roulette, red and black. Doesn't matter if it's 8 reds. The chances are still 50-50 minus the green.
Yes. A final note on the Washington football team. We didn't really mention it in the news about Snyder. It did come out during the week that he potentially tried to tamper with the investigation into the bullying and the culture there. So it looks like a few government committees are going to get involved, and potentially all those emails they didn't release may get released. And Gruden,
I was going to say, ask Gruden. He'll tell you he's been tampering.
Yeah, so Gruden won't be the only one to potentially have a falling here.
Hang on. I've got someone live on the earpiece here. Some breaking news. Dan Snyder is a piece of shit. Thank you for confirming what we already knew.
Hold on, I've got someone else saying water is wet. Okay, yes, there we go.
Water is wet. Pepsi will have too many
I
beers on the
you
podcast.
say water is wet in a while.
And play very ordinary golf tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Speaking of ordinary, the Arizona Cardinals take on the Detroit Lions. Boys, obviously we're all going to go the Arizona Cardinals here.
Cards by a lot.
Did drop a game on was it Monday night?
Cards lost during the week, yes.
Monday Night Football.
Yeah, can't remember who they played though.
Losing the Rams.
That's
losing track of my games, my days, my words. They did drop from number 1 seed in the NFC to the 3rd seed. I expect they get an easy win here. Good to see Kyler Murray back healthy. DeAndre Hopkins, he's healthy.
Yep.
The Cards are back and feeling good. Still a big question mark for mine. That record looks immaculate. Mm-hmm. Obviously, don't expect any dramas here against the Detroit Lions. I'm just speculating going forward.
Yeah.
Are they an elite team in the NFC? Time will tell.
Yeah, Cards by a lot. Hopkins done for the season is probably the big one. So. Yeah, knee strain and done for the regular season. I think if they make deep playoffs, he could potentially be back, but he's going to be done for a little while. They're shutting him down. I'm not 100% sure on the exact strain, but yeah, that's a big one.
I was unaware.
That came out during the week, so expect a lot of AJ Green in the absence of Hopkins for that matter.
Hasn't AJ Green and Zach Ertz been, really, revamping their careers this year at that high-powered Arizona offense. And James Conner.
Yeah, James Conner, big time. And I think they get Edmonds back this week as well.
He'd be very close. James Conner, I think he's on a 1 year prove it deal. Very little money, and I think he's second in the NFL in touchdowns.
He's really fit into that team because I think they needed grit, and he's really given it to them. Besides, like you said, the flashy, high-powered offense, when they needed the tough yards or that grittiness, as I mentioned, he seems to provide it, and can really put a defense on their back heels.
It's interesting because he's that hard-nosed, short yardage, goal line kind of guy, but then also, do you know who leads the NFL in one-handed catches?
Yeah,
James Conner.
He's been catching
balls.
And
he pulled one off. He pulled one off on the weekend.
Big time.
On Monday night against the Rams. He's really rejuvenated his career, and hopefully next year, whether or not it's at the Cardinals, someone throws him some big money. Obviously, been through a lot of adversity with lymphoma, beating that. And, resurrecting his career. So shout out to James Conner. He's playing some good ball.
There's enough talk about this. We all pick cards. What are the odds?
Cards.
Yep. Well, just on James Conner, so he's not been participating in practice because of his ankle at the end of the Rams game. And Edmund seems to be back this week.
Lucky if the timing, if Connor's going to miss a little bit of time.
Yeah.
What are your odds there?
I'll go off the top of the dome. Cards.
$1.10.
Yeah, $1.12.
Close. $1.14. That means the lines are out at $5.80. We have a line of 11.5. Total match points of 47.5.
Yeah, ignore all that.
You know what though? The Lions haven't really got dicked that many times this year. Just they really struggle to win football games, obviously.
Except against Denver, but we'll keep going. All right, Panthers taking on the Bills. Surprisingly, Bills 7-6. The Panthers started a little bit all right with Cam Newton, and his last two starts probably post 2015. Cam Newton's back, which hasn't been real great for them. They've gone 0-11 in the last 11 Cam Newton starts. PJ Walker did come in against the Cards and did look pretty good. They actually had some good stats there and a couple decent drives.
Well, that game that they won against the Cardinals, PJ Walker had to start, and that was the I'm back game for
and Cam was the pseudo scat back or wildcat back / running back.
The Taysom Hill, if you will.
Yeah, maybe that's his role going forward.
I think it should be.
As a bit more of a weapon than a starter.
PJ Walker,
snap in, snap out.
PJ Walker, probably not an elite NFL quarterback.
Bunks, Sam Darnold, I think, is back from IR as well. So I'm not actually sure he's getting a start in this one, but I did see that during the week.
Yeah, speaking of below elite quarterbacks in the NFL.
Do I think it matters going into Buffalo against the Bills, who now need to really win out to solidify their position in the AFC for playoffs? No, I don't. I'm going Buffalo.
Buffalo for mine, although big question marks, maybe less so in this game, but maybe moving forward, they can't run the ball.
They got no run.
So,
well, they can. It's just Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He's got to do everything. So
when your quarterback is leading the rushing column week in, week out with 40-odd yards, it's not a good thing.
Well, I think he got more than that last week as well. My concern is we don't want him to go down that Andrew Luck path because that's very much what Andrew was kind of doing for the Colts.
Doing it all.
And, he ended up a bit banged up in the process.
Nelson Muntz off The Simpsons had to do it all, threw it to himself.
Yes.
Great comparison.
Did you get an answer on quarterbacks for the Panthers for us, James?
So Darnold has been cleared to return, but not yet cleared for contact.
So PJ Walker's going to start.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Confirmed. Doesn't matter. They don't have CMC. They suck without him.
Yep. Bills.
That's it.
Odds.
Yep. So odds are Bills favourites, heavy favourites at $1.18. The Panthers are out at $4.90 at the moment. We have a line of 10.5, total match points of 44.5.
Some heavy favourites in this one. So that means we're going to the Sunday late games, and we will. First one there is Bengals taking on the Broncos, both 7-6, both in the hunt. There's a lot of teams in the hunt in the AFC. Denver, of course, coming off that big win, as mentioned, against the Lions, where they ran all over them. I think the running backs had 4 touchdowns between the two of them. The Bengals were a bit quiet, and then Chase came alive and Burrow came alive, and they managed to score and get that game into overtime, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head if they won or not.
Must have chased that up. Well prepared here, aren't we? Tonight?
Irrespective.
You would have seen the Broncos game.
Of course, I saw the Broncos game, and my concern, of course, is Teddy's been very quiet passing the ball, but the running game has been elite. Williams has a sore knee during the week. It's been a little bit limited. Should be right to play. Defense has been pretty good. The Bengals are a different beast, though. I think I was a Judas and picked Bengals because
fucking Judas. I can't. I thought 100%.
Because every time he backs.
Yeah. So I'm going with the reverse psychology strategy here and picking the opposition in the hope that Denver wins. So that's that's my plan here. So I have picked the Bengals. They are going into Mile High. I do really like a lot of what the Broncos are doing. Potentially maybe a shootout, but who knows?
Judas Gould to my right. I'm going to go the Bengals because I don't have a horse in this race. However, Broncos defense playing lights out.
Pretty good.
Running game's good. Maybe just a bit of that quarterback play, as aforementioned. Teddy Bridgewater got some pretty elite receiving talent, I think, there.
Yeah, I think it'll be, see where we get this year, and then we'll be in the Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson sweepstakes next year.
Interesting. Well, considering Judas is on my right here, we have two Bengals. The Bengals did lose to the 49ers last week.
That's
so
right.
they had a fourth quarter comeback,
Yep.
and then, lost in overtime.
Yeah, they're really quiet and then roared back into that game.
Fourth quarter, 14-zip.
Yeah, looks like they scored the field goal in overtime for San Fran to only come back and score the touchdown.
Yep.
One of those shindigs. I'm glad they changed that rule.
It's good.
Yeah.
I quite like it.
Yep.
Definitely. In terms of my tip, I have gone the Broncos. They are favourites at $1.64.
They're Denver Broncos. They're $1.64 and you can't tip them.
He wants to make sure that they win.
Yeah, it's a very Denver thing.
The Bengals are out at $2.27. The line is 2.5, so touted to be a close game, and total match points of 44.
44. That might be slightly a bit low. I think both teams have been scoring points of late. So
Weather might be interesting.
weather, good point. Yeah, in December, very very cool.
I follow a few ski resorts over in our friends across the Pacific Ocean, and seems like it was dumping a fair bit. So whether or not that trickles its way down to Denver,
Weather.
Whether the weather be hot or whether the weather be cold.
Just slap him. Next match will be the Falcons taking on the 49ers, as we mentioned before, getting that win against the Bengals. They themselves are 7-6, taking on the 6-7 Falcons, who are surprisingly almost at 500 considering the season they've had. Haven't been that great, though, since Ridley's taken his leave of absence. I did pick the 49ers in this one. George Kittle in that battle for best tight end in the league with Kels. Kels responding this week with his resume for who the best tight end is, but they've both been elite in the last month. So I think that's probably the big difference for me. I'm hoping Kyle Pitts does well, but Kittle, 49ers, that's my take.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Hard to see the 49ers dropping this one at home. Like you said, the Falcons a little bit kind of overs on what people were expecting. You know, sitting a touch behind 500 there. But there at Santa Clara, you'd imagine the 49ers have the advantage. For our American listeners, I'm sorry, Santa Clara.
Makes all the difference.
Yes.
They probably can't understand what the fuck we're saying half the time.
Your thoughts, Max?
That's our problem. Yeah, I guess, you can't get past the 49ers over on that side of the West Coast. I forgot what I was saying. And yeah, Falcons.
Are you okay tonight?
I don't know. It's been a long year. I'm just happy I'm on holidays now.
Yeah. We're getting close to Christmas.
We are getting very
This
close
is
to
a real
Christmas.
crawling into it. His legs have been taken out in
That's it.
Nam. That's what I'm getting. Real Forrest Gump vibes. Bubba, I can't feel my legs. That's you crawling into Christmas.
It has been a long year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I like all kinds of shrimp.
did you give the odds?
I do like shrimp.
Yeah, because otherwise I was going to use that
They're
as a
called
segment.
prawns,
They
actually.
are called prawns over here.
And you don't throw
Had
them
some
on a
for dinner,
barbecue.
actually. What?
You can barbecue them.
You can, but they can go very wrong very quickly.
You can fry them, barbecue them, stir fry them, put them with pineapple
I
sauce.
can barbecue them pretty all right.
That's enough about prawns. Give us those odds.
Yeah. 49ers are favourites, $1.22. Falcons are out at $4.35 at the moment.
Again, a bit short.
Take it as you will. We do have a line at 9.5 and total match points of 46.
Yeah, I don't like any of that.
Out of all the ones that supposedly short, I'm more confident in the 49ers getting this job done.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I was going to use the long year as a segue for the Seahawks because Alex Collins is on COVID as well, so he's missing out. So we've got Seahawks taking on the Rams. Penny is going to be their starting run back and was pretty good last week.
I'd say better than pretty good.
Yeah.
16 for 137, 2 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett was good. DK Metcalf on Monkeys Fantasy team.
Still a bit quiet.
Still very quiet.
5 games and no touchdown.
It's all right.
Started
I got
off this year red hot,
Yeah.
and it's
all
gone
right.
very quiet.
I got another receiver. His name's Patterson.
Cordero.
No, don't you mean running back?
Well, interesting. Going back to that Falcons 49ers game, I've bet the overs on Cordero Patterson receiving yards the last few weeks, and it's lost.
Yeah,
he's running the
running
ball.
ball.
He's actually running the
He's
ball.
actually a running back.
Yeah, he's actually a running back. Who would have known?
So back to this, back to this game of the Rams. DK
Over
will
here.
DK will probably get Ramsey on him. Be interesting with the Rams team, their COVID situation, because they got a bunch of defenders, like I mentioned before, Von Miller on that list that will miss out.
If Donald's good, they're good.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Donald's good, I think that'll be too much for the Seahawks. Their offense has been really good. OBJ's really fit in there as a replacement for Bobby Trees. Van Jefferson has
Yeah,
been
coming along.
very good as speedy wide receiver.
And
there, so-
Cooper Kupp is on pace to break
All the records.
all the records.
He's
He had
so good.
13 catches
Yeah.
last week, 100-odd yards, and a touchdown. Currently leads the league
by a long margin.
but he's got the holy trinity.
Oh, yeah.
He's got receptions, he's got yards, and he's got touchdowns, and on pace to get all of those easily. And the only real question now with the extra game is how many of those records is he going to break? You suspect catches definitely. You suspect yards maybe.
Yep.
And you suspect touchdowns less likely, but who knows?
Probable.
Definitely probable.
Yeah. Having said that, Rams down the end there.
Yeah, I've
Odds.
gone Rams. Before I get to the odds, Aaron Donald did not participate in practice on Wednesday.
Probably protected him. It's like, stay away.
Probably. Yeah.
Don't get the COVID.
You see that
Show up on
bloke-
game day.
You see that bloke with his shirt off? COVID scared of Aaron Donald.
Riggs.
Dead set.
Yep. I've gone Rams as well. They are favourites at $1.49. The Seahawks are out at $2.66 at the moment. We do have a line of 4 and total match points of 44.5.
A line of 4. Give me the Rams at home all day, every day. Not often.
4 is a bit low for these two
Not
teams as
often
well.
confident. Not often confident. Yes, the cocoa is about. It's lurking. But I tell you what, if Stafford, if Cup, if Donald are good to go, those 3 could play, and they'd probably be the Seahawks.
Yep.
Well, I'm just looking at the Seahawks injury list. There's a lot of names on there. But yeah, just going back to Metcalf, he's, again, did not participate foot putting back injuries. So
I feel like I think
Probably.
he'll play. It's
I think
more,
he'll play.
more of a precautionary.
He might be
thing
struggling though, a little bit banged up.
But the Rams -4. That's my tip of the week. Packers Ravens.
In what should be a massive game, but Monks, can you find out the status of Lamar Jackson for us? Because he did leave the game last week, and is it Hurtley came in as
Huntley
came in as the replacement for him and seemed to do pretty well.
Hurtley's Jalen Hurts' younger brother.
That's right.
Interesting matchup here between NFC and AFC hopefuls. The Packers had a very, very strange game.
Slow against the Bears, for a reason.
But high scoring. Defense didn't really show up.
Back in that game and dominated.
Two special teams touchdowns for the Chicago Bears. But the Packers, they just said, oh, well, fuck it. I own you. Aaron Rodgers, CEO of the Chicago Bears, 45 points. We'll see you next year to sweep you twice. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But at the Ravens, hard. They've been trending downwards. They've lost their last two. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC not that long ago, and struggling offensively. So, did you get news on Lamar Jackson? Surely a different game.
While you do that, I just want to say
Rodgers
Rodgers had his toe, is a bit limited. I think Aaron Jones had a toe or foot as well, a little bit limited.
Yeah, Rodgers complaining that his toe is quite painful.
Yeah, it needs surgery.
Said it's broken. Yep.
It's just whether can I play the rest of the year on it and then get surgery post-season, or whether I can fit it in somewhere.
He'll be right. Those immunisations help
big time.
help
big time.
toes.
Yeah, probably a bit of calcium and he'll be right. So I've picked the Packers in this because I just don't like where the Ravens are. Did you get an answer on Lamar?
I did. It's day to day.
Not a great answer.
No.
Which would be a huge...
that's a dick tease, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge out if you miss it.
Say yes or no. Yes or no.
Yeah.
I still like the Pack. I still like the Pack, irrespective.
Pack here, no Judas. You can call me Peter. Jesus is most loyal. He did also bail on him, I think.
Monks, we don't need any more biblical history. What was your tips and odds?
2,000 years ago, man. It's fact. Come on now.
Well, there's plenty of books floating around that prove it. So, go, Mr.
All right, let's keep this ball rolling. I have also gone the Pack. They are favourites, $1.39. The Ravens are out at $3.04. The line is 5.5, and we've got total match points of 43.5.
Yeah, Judas here. I'm not happy to punt on that. That's way too short at Baltimore for my liking, especially with a question mark around the Aarons. But I tell you what, if they play anything like they did against Chicago, they should be fine.
Yes. That leads into Sunday Night Football, and we've got the Saints taking on the Buccaneers. The Saints haven't been the same since the Winston injury and then Alvin Kamara kind of coming back. They did, of course, win their last game over the Jets, and Kamara getting all the carries in that 121 tutter with a few catches thrown in as well. They are much better with him. Taysom Hill playing a bit of a running back role, H-back role there too.
And we spoke about it. When Kamara's there, it makes Hill more effective.
Yep.
Because you've got to think about both of them.
Yes.
And
it's a one-on-one matchup besides the doubling or scheming to take him out of it.
And no knock on Mark Ingram, Saints legend, but it is a different story when a defense has got to account for Kamara and Hill in the backfield there.
I mentioned before, Winston also the only team to beat the two number 1 seeds, with the Bucs being number 1. It is a rematch of that crazy game in Week 8, which the Saints won. A lot has happened since then. The Buccaneers are 10-3, only really missing AB through his fake COVID vaccination
fake
card.
ID, baby. Fake ID.
So I think he misses the next 2 weeks.
He's in the nightclub and he's 16.
What did the Bucs do last week, Monks?
Beat the Bills. You cash money?
They did. No, I didn't.
Well,
I completely missed it. Yeah.
for the man.
It's always the way. But they did get the win, as you say, against
Pretty good,
the Bills. Pretty good.
Gronk.
Tom Gronk, good. Tom Brady. on that streak to potentially being MVP again.
Playoff Lenny, regular season Lenny.
Yeah, Chris Godwin got a lot of ball as well.
That's right. That was the overtime as well.
Yes.
Again.
I think the Buccaneers are too good for the Saints in this one.
Brady's 700th touchdown.
Yes. And did you see they had a Buck staffer there ready to receive the ball before it went into the crowd? So what's
your go? That one,
no free Bitcoins for this one.
So 600 was obviously regular season, and now it's 700 including playoffs. Is that the yarn there?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
I feel like they just make up stuff sometimes, you know.
Tom Brady's got all the records, so it doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, he does.
Monks?
Yep. So
no Judas, I'm assuming.
No Judas here.
Odds, favourites.
They are favourites. Yep, $1.17. The Saints are out at $5.
Short.
Very short.
Danny DeVito night here on the Esky. It is very short. Thank you.
At least you picked Danny DeVito. A final match for this round is the Monday Night Football game where we have the Vikings potentially trying to give up another big lead to the Bears. The Bears are 4-9. Vikes are 6-7. Bears, as we mentioned, Justin Fields starting did score 2 touchdowns early.
Yes,
had the lead into the half.
Pushed the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, the second half a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, the real Packers showed up and then played their football and got the win there. I really like what the Vikings do offensively. They've got talent there, and Kirk only has to do so much to get them wins.
He's sneaky good, man. He's sneaky good.
Sneaky
Everyone
good.
sleeps on Kirk Cousins.
This is prime time, though, and Kirk prime time is not as good.
I'm aware.
Still think they handle the Bears in Chicago. Probably, again, weather going to be cold, which means a heavy dose of Dalvin Cook.
The Windy City, baby. Agreed. I saw what Dalvin Cook did to that Steelers defense. The Bears defense, not too shabby, but possibly not as good as Pittsburgh. I think the recipe's there. A steady dose of Cook, as you say there, Sean. I think the Vikes get the job done here and stay in contention in that NFC North.
All right, finish us off with some tips and odds there, Marks.
Yeah, great save.
Great save.
I know how your brain works.
Who did I tip again? I have tipped the Vikings. They are favourites of $1.42. The Bears are out at $2.89. We have a line of 5.5 and total match points of 44.
No, that'll be weather dependent.
Yeah, very weather dependent. Unders, if anything, for mind. Before we scroll down there, James. So the last kind of bit of news to finish us off was the Heisman Trophy winner with Bryce Young from Alabama actually winning that, which is pretty impressive considering some of the quarterbacks of late going through Bama. He did have over 4,000 passing yards and 43 touchdowns this year with 4 intercepts. And
10-1 ratio touchdowns intercepts.
Did have potentially 2 first-round wide receivers on his team, but so has the previous quarterbacks that played for Alabama. He did finish ahead of Aiden Hutchinson from the tight end from Michigan.
Defensive end,
sorry. Yes. He looks very like a really good specimen coming out.
Some
big unit.
Some people will have him going number 1 next year.
Yes. Whether the Lions need a defensive end is a good question, but we will see. Kenny Pickett from the Pit from Pittsburgh was also in that conversation.
Old fake slide boy.
Yeah. Yes. I believe Pitt's already nominated for the draft. Hutchinson also has already come out and said he will.
Yeah. That'll be
Young. I'm not so sure about. I don't think so.
Because he's a sophomore. He could go another year.
Yeah. Final points here, though. Back-to-back Heisman winners for Bama. They did have Devontae Smith last year. This is the 6th time they've had schools of back-to-back, Baker and Kyler, which is quite interesting. First-round picks as well. Follow that up, both as quarterbacks for Oklahoma. And then we've had Matt Leonard and Reggie Bush there as well in 04 and 05.
And then before that, you've got to go quite some time. Yeah. So Bama, obviously very dominant in the last few years in college football. Bryce Young wins the Heisman Trophy. Has he elected to go?
No. So
he's going to play another year.
Yeah, being a sophomore, he has to play another year.
Yeah, he's minimum 3 years, I think. Well, you don't have to play the full threes, but
Any back-to-back Heisman chats?
potentially. We'll have to see what.
When was the last time that was done? Fuck. Has it ever been done?
Oh, back to back. Well, Peyton missed out on his, so no. Well, not in the last 20 years that I can think of.
I don't think it's ever been done.
No.
Monks will chase that one up.
Yes. All right. Well, that finishes off the NFL news for the week. I'm going to take a quick break. Your mate, Trenton Aiden, has asked the questions. Can I get your opinions on Brett Finch?
Nathan, if you're watching, thank you. Appreciate that on a Friday night. I'm going to do a Stephen Smith and let that one go through the keeper. No run there. No run. Obviously, Brett Finch been in the news this week for the wrong reasons.
All of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, not one to speculate here, I must say. Don't want to touch that, to be honest.
No.
You know what that looks like? Undercooked chicken. It looks like salmonella. It looks like you start to talk and you die from poisoning. A bit of a stretch anyway. Salmonella, Brett Finch. Don't want to touch that one. What I do want to talk about is the National Basketball Association. Steph Curry, he is the greatest shooter of all time beyond the arc. He passed Ray Allen this week for the most 3 points in NBA history. Monks, bring up the games because I think it was more than 500 games less than Ray Allen, which is ridiculous. It was nice scenes there. The crowd went wild. Ray Allen was there. He congratulated Steph, on the achievement. Look, Steph Curry, GOAT. Does he come into the conversation? Probably not. There's a guy called LeBron. There's a guy called Michael Jordan. There's the old timers that come into that conversation. Is he the greatest 3-point shooter of all time?
Yes.
Undoubtedly, no question, no ifs or buts. He's the best, and he's 33. So this could be one of those records where he gets a sturdy lead and maybe never gets caught. Thoughts around Steph Curry?
To answer that question, eras are dependent. So. As you know,
he changed the game.
He changed the game.
He has changed the game.
Literally, he's one person, and there's 340 million people in America, and most of them love watching hoops, and he has literally redefined that game.
Yeah. So, potentially from that, in another 10 years' time, when you get the next wave of young talent coming through that have completely modeled their game around Curry, like there's a few already coming in, but I'm going to give it a 10 years for it to fully filter through. Maybe there's another shooter as good and can potentially chase down that record. Maybe by that point they're playing 100+ game season because how the leagues. Yeah, exactly. So so will the record stand forever? No, I don't think so. We've seen a lot of records will fall in time.
Don Bradman enters the chat.
Also true.
This is one where you don't, in the foreseeable future.
Not the foreseeable future. There's probably, and that would make Monks work to try and see if there's anyone currently in the league on pace to potentially last that long. But longevity is a big point.
Well, his teammate, Klay Thompson, had he stayed healthy, 2 years out of the game, obviously he's not going to catch Steph, but possibly in the conversation, had he stayed healthy, pretty...
It's really hard to do.
You need to see some kind of generational talent.
No one's going to be doing it anytime soon.
Correct.
There.
Shout out to Steph Curry with the wrist, boy. The best 3-point shooter of all time, and we already knew it. And it's the real question now is how many can he actually sink? Because probably the way LeBron's going at 38, for a guy that doesn't have to rely so much on athleticism, you'd say he's still got at least 4 or 5 years in the league, if not more.
Yeah, and with the way basketball's kind of played now than it was, say, in the 90s, the early 90s, etc. There's a lot more room for longevity.
That's right. The perimeter, is seems to be the future of the NBA. The paint and the nitty gritty of the 80s and 90s is less involved.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that Thunder Pelicans game in a minute where it didn't really matter where they were shooting from.
Let's talk about it now.
Well, I want to quickly go back to the stats. So Steph Curry has broken the record in 789 games.
500 less than Ray Allen.
Yeah, Ray Allen was at 1,300. If he stays on pace...
5'11".
If he stays on pace and plays as many games as Ray Allen, that's going to put him at just at 4,900.
Jesus Christ.
That's a lot.
So we'll absolutely blow that out of the water.
Yeah.
Wild scenes. James Harden, out of current players, he sits fourth on that list. So we might have two current players go 1 and 2.
That's it. And the averages for 3-point attempts 20 years ago, we're looking at about 14.7 a game. Nowadays is sitting at 35.5.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
More. Well, that's more. That's two and a half.
Two and a half.
So the game has definitely changed. Speaking of that Thunder Pelicans game, neither of these teams will be bothering anyone come June, July. However, SGA, he hits a three with 1.4 seconds on the clock to tie it up 110 apiece. We look like
long range three as well. Like it wasn't right.
It was very nice there from Shy. And hold the phone. This was at OKC. Devontae Graham says, hang on, I'll get the inbound and just throw one up from, let's call it 3/4 court.
Yeah.
Backboard and in. Pelicans win. Absolute fucking scenes. You could hear a dime. You could hear a drop in the crowd as that Thunder crowd gets absolutely stunned.
Yeah, it was more shock cheers as well. So it was like, wow.
You see the Thunder boys as well, SGA and the lads, Giddy, and they're just going, oh my goodness. Like, how unlucky.
Yeah.
Marcus Harris vibes there, if you will. Joss Butler taking a screamer and dropping, legitimate sitters. But again, neither of these teams even you'd expect to feature heavily coming down the stretch. Josh Giddey, our Aussie mate, is still playing very well. He's in the top 3 contenders for Rookie of the Year. However, unlikely to take that one out. Bit of Zion watch. The bloke's fat. He's fat.
He's got an injury, and I can't remember if it's...
Yeah, his injury is fatness.
It might be foot related, and potentially it's because he's a bit heavy. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they're trying to monitor his status, or his minutes as well. With that, I think it's lower foot. I think it might be foot. I don't think it was ankle. Monks, if you've got something there to answer.
This is highly medical.
Yeah. It's leg related area, probably below the pelvis.
If you name one bone in the foot, I'll scull a beer right now.
Liz Frank.
That's a ligament. That was very close. It's a ligament. That was very, very good. I'll open a beer for that. Old Liz Frank. She's a cranky old bitch, old Liz Frank. I tell you what.
What's metatarsal?
Yeah, that's a bone.
I got one. I knew there was at least one I knew of.
And how many is there?
I don't know, plenty.
5. Shout out to the metatarsals of the world. Zion, any chat? He's a big boy.
He has received a biologic injection. I don't know.
Sounds like stem cells.
Injections would not be biologic.
It sounds like stem cells. It's another way of saying stem cells to me.
I don't know if that would be legal.
If he goes down to Mexico, it is.
Sure.
Hey, he's on that Joe Rogan shit over the border into Mexico.
Joe Rogan's mum kind of shit. That's what. Seriously.
Yeah. Yes.
Shout out to Mrs. Rogan.
Yeah.
That Panama shit. I don't know if that is legal in the NBA.
Yeah. So it's to
stem cells. That is.
He wouldn't fail a drug test though.
So
yeah, it tests positive for cheeseburgers.
He's on that Charles Barkley diet. Come on, bro.
So whatever the injection is, it's to help promote bone healing in his foot fracture.
It's either that or they put calcium in it. Yeah.
I don't think it's stem cells. This is purely speculation. And also a shout out to our heavy listeners. We love you too.
Yeah, hopefully very, very drunk by this point. We're talking about shooters as well. We're talking about three-pointers. We've got to shout out the Australian, and we've been shouting him out quite regularly. He didn't make it this in the intro, but Paddy Mills did drop another 30. They did get the win over the Raptors. COVID affected, as I mentioned. They've got a few guys out and because of the protocols. KD, finish off that. He was 7 for 14 from three-point land. So very good to see Paddy Mills getting big minutes and putting up big points. KD himself also getting a lot of points and pushing Steph potentially for MVP chat.
He must be number 2.
Yeah.
Monks bring up those odds, I'm sure, but KD must be number 2.
Yeah, pushing out the centres like Joker, etc. down the list.
Yep.
Did get 51 a few nights ago against the lonely Pistons. What are you thinking MVP-wise? A quick focus.
Steph's a firm favourite for a reason, but Kevin...
I think with the story and the history, that I might also lean it in his favour a little bit as well, with the coaching and popular vote, etc. for that. So
how's this? Kevin Durant might be the most complete basketballer in the NBA. Obviously, he's no Steph, but he can shoot a 3-ball, and then in the paint and going towards the basket. Obviously, at 6'11", offers a little bit more than Steph probably does there. Monks, is it KD, and has he caught up much ground there on Steph in
us a top 5
in the MVP ranks?
Yeah. All right. So we've got Steph Curry is favourite at $2.40. KD has closed the gap and is sitting at $3.10. We've got the Greek Freak next up at $8.50. And then it starts widening out with Jokic out at 14. And
what was that?
Jokic.
Yeah, the Joker.
It's better.
And Embiid is sitting out at $36.
The big boys.
Yeah.
3-horse race. The bookies reckon you could probably narrow it down to 2.
Yeah, I think
Steph and KD.
Depends how the Bucks do in the back end of the season.
Could be the finals as well. Could be the finals. Nets Warriors. Who knows? Speaking of, would you mind bringing up the standings and having a little look-o? Obviously, starting to get to the middle of the season, you take the standings for a grain of salt.
Yeah, I know that
the number 1 seed struggled recently, so.
Yeah.
While I bring this up, just to bring it full circle on Zion, he fractured his 5th metatarsal.
Metatarsal, baby. Metatarsal.
Yours in the foot. There you go.
You know what? It's not a full skull, but it's a finisher beer. Well done, Sean. Nose of bone in the foot. And there's 5 times 2. That's 10 bones. 10 bones,
There you go.
It's not quite a full chub, but it's a half chub.
Damn it.
Doesn't the foot have like the most bones in the body as well, though? So percentage-wise,
the next thing you need to Google is how many bones in the feet. I think 26. 26, I think. 5 metatarsals. 14 phalanges is 19 plus 7 tarsal.
Didn't you just get a distinction in this? Come on.
I did, but that was 11 beers ago.
Looking
27 is what I'll say.
27 there.
it's 28.
Motherfucker.
That's why you got a distinction and not a
This has always been in my brain. If you get a HD, you've wasted a lot of time because the difference between a HD and a distinction, like you could have got a lot of shit done outside of that HD. You know what I mean?
Anyway,
how many rounds of golf is that?
Yeah,
that's right. That's this year probably at least one a week. At least one a week.
Don't take study advice from us. Looking at the Eastern Conference there, I did want to point out the 76ers have lost 3 in a
They're
row.
sliding their 500.
They started low. They worked back into it and then slid down a bit. So Nets still at the top there. What are they? 3 games ahead.
The
Bucks there. Bulls
they're dropped off a little bit this week.
Same with the Heat a little bit as well. Cavaliers kind of floating in there, which is not bad.
Sneaky good.
The Hornets
sneaky good
in the 6.
And then sneaky bad sneaky bad even. Don't know why sneaky bad came out of my mouth then. Atlanta Hawks, Boston Celtics, both at 500 in the 9th and 10th seed at the moment.
But the Knicks and, say, the Pacers sliding a little bit there.
Outside of that play-in in the East.
Both won their recent matches, but, they're outside the 10 currently. What about the West? Golden State and Suns on the same. Jazz 2-3 games behind, or 2 and a bit. They have 3 games. Sorry, 3 games there, and they've got a decent lead on the Grizzlies, Clippers, and Lakers currently. Lakers have won 3 straight though, and I think Isaiah Thomas is going to sign a deal for them to essentially retire. I believe a 10-day contract to finish his career out. Nuggets struggling a little bit. Dallas probably where I kind of think they'd be.
Both at 500.
Both at 500. Timberwolves slightly down there. Spurs, maybe a little bit of an interesting one down there. The Trailblazers, though, have lost 7 straight. That's not real great for them.
No. And a lot of talk about Simmons going to possibly Portland.
Portland or Indiana, the Pacers. They're the 2 that the most talk about.
There's about 5 or 6 teams that are after him. Portland's management did come out this week and said Dame Lillard is not in the conversation. No. Dame will not be going anywhere.
They'd pair him, essentially. They want to bring in some defensive talent to support him.
Indeed.
Which, in that aspect, makes sense. If you lost 7 straight, you might need to play better defense.
That'll wrap up our NBA chat for the week. Let's move to the other round ball sport that we like to keep an eye on in soccer, football, as they say in Espanol. The Champions League round of 16, it was announced, and it was a
shit show.
It was the boys trying to organise a tea time on a Saturday morning in December.
We can pick the tea time. It's just showing up for it on time and...
Shout out to me, 8:38. That is in 9 hours. I'll be there, and I will maybe break 100. Let's see what happens. However, the Champions League round of 16, it didn't go according to plan. They had the balls in the wrong pots. United initially drew Villarreal. Can't be in that pot. They were in the same group together.
Yes.
Then they drew PSG. People go, ooh. Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, very, very interesting.
Juicy.
And then apparently there's some kind of technical problem, and that one got revoked, and a lot of the clubs were kicking up a stink saying, this draw is horse shit, to quote the great Will Ferrell. And it was an absolute bungle. However, we do have some fixtures for the round of 16, which will kick off in mid-February, I believe. Bayern getting a pretty easy draw with Red Bull Salzburg there. You'd imagine Bayern cruise through there. Speaking of City, get Sporting Lisbon. Imagine them not to be too troubled there. Ajax brand wipe. They get Benfica. An interesting draw there. Ajax has been playing excellent football, but Benfica, a staple of Champions League round of 16s, often trouble teams. So an interesting matchup there. Chelsea, they'll smash Lille, you'd imagine, get through pretty comfortably. Now we start getting into a few juicy ones. Atletico and Man United. So you're looking at one of the best teams in Spain going up a team historically very, very good. But have really failed to deliver over the last 10 years. United, Atletico, that'll be an interesting matchup there. Speaking of PSG, Real Madrid, you get Messi going up against a team that he used to have to face 4 or 5 times a year. Really had a number against them in some games, but also Real, having the Messi code, the cheat code to beat Messi. That's probably the most riveting matchup of the round of 16. Liverpool get Inter. Be interesting at the San Siro to see what they can do there. And Villarreal get Juventus. Monks, can you bring up the odds for the whole thing? For mine, and I've said it before on the pod, I think Bayern look very, very good. However, your Cities, your Chelseas, your Liverpools could do some damage. And then obviously that PSG team
PSG, they're built to try and win this thing, so that's what they want to do.
trying to get off the donut, trying to get off the nudie run in terms of Champions League victories. Monks, what do we have? Outside of those teams, Ajax have been very good. Do you see them winning the whole thing?
Probably not.
Possibly not. Possibly not. Do have a good Champions League record. Ajax have a few under their belt. Back in the days where pretty much their team was the Holland team. So a little bit different in terms of how history plays out. Interesting that Bayern are not the favourites. It's the shit Manchester team. The one in sky blue.
It is. So, yeah, Man City is favourites at $3.75 at the moment. Bayern is at $4.50. Liverpool rounds out the top three at $6.50.
Who's defending champions, by the way?
Last year's Championes was
it City? I know they won the APL. I can't remember if they won this as well.
No, it was Chelsea, wasn't it?
Could have been.
This is how much sport we watch. I can't remember anything.
It is late, right?
Yes, gets to a point.
Chelsea.
It's Chelsea.
It was Chelsea. Good pick up.
Man City was runner-up.
There you go. They played in the
All England. England.
Yeah.
Friday night, eh?
Yeah.
A few beers.
So to finish off on the soccer, the EPL, as mentioned, they did have some midweek games. A lot of the games have been canned or postponed because of the COVID. City did put 7 on Leeds. Arsenal beat the Hammers. Liverpool beat Newcastle, who I think are dead last still. So.
Second last?
Yeah,
second last, perhaps. Not looking good for the big buyout, obviously.
Yes.
What's going to happen if they're not in the Premier League and they've got all this money? A lot of conjecture around that. Yeah. I hate it when City plays that good. But 7, they look very polished.
Oh,
De Bruyne and Foden and Folk looking very, very good in that win over Leeds.
Yeah, they're at the top of the EPL for a reason.
Thinking of Sergio Aguero, he announced his retirement this week. Some heart problems. Monks, the Argentine, obviously a staple at Manchester City for many, many years. One of the EPL's, I think he's in the top 5 goal scorers of all time. Any news there? Thinking of Sergio, you don't want any problems with the ticker. What's going on?
Yeah, not too much has been released just yet. I heard that he had some sort of scar on his heart. They didn't really want to play around with that. Is
that from a surgery? Or
not sure.
Unsure?
I do know they were...
It could just be dead cells that have kind of moved into a spot where they're worried about it. Last thing is you want it to move and block something and heart attack.
The cardiologist to my right.
Yes.
That's it, yeah. I think they did make a point of saying that's not COVID related. It's got nothing to do with any of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, unfortunately...
How old is he?
He's 33-ish, I think.
Yeah.
Still pretty
Early
young.
30s.
I've got his stats here. 33.
Give some stats, Marks.
A lot of goals.
I'm
I'm telling you right now.
goals, yeah.
A lot of goals. What do you got? Clubs, 508 games, 282 club goals, and 101 appearances for Argentina, 41 goals for the Blue and Whites.
That's it.
There.
Well, I'm not sure if that's regular season or postseason as well, because I saw an article saying that he leads Man City with 260-odd goals.
Yeah, I think.
As well,
I'm pretty sure he's the all-time leader for Manchester City. Look up EPL most goals ever. I'm quite certain that he's top 5 in that. Alan Shearer, I believe, is number 1. Yes, Wayne Rooney.
Yep.
There, Sergio Aguero behind Andy Cole, 184 Premier League goals, 4th all time in the Premier League. Kun Aguero, he will be missed, and thinking of him in that ticker, it is definitely something that you want to be in order.
Definitely.
Yeah. Don't fuck around with the heart. Okay, final round.
Ding ding.
Monks, if you want, you can find some UFC 269 highlights because we're going to talk about the pay-per-view.
269, damn, she's fine.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Because it was a big card with a bunch of major upsets as well. If we kick off through the prelims. Silva did beat White by TKO, ended up with a 50k bonus. The one we want to talk about is our boy Tua.
Shuivasa.
Yeah, Suivasa.
Should legally change that surname.
Yeah. Yeah, gets the TK, well, the TK, we got the KO, and of course finished off with multiple shoeys after that. He did beat a ranked opponent in Sake, who was 11th. Yep. So I think Monksy might need to get ratings for us, but he's on his 4-fight win streak currently, and he did get himself a 50k bonus, so it's good for him.
Get the man in ranking. He has to be ranked. He's just smashed someone coming 11th in the UFC rankings. That combo, man, like we all know his power. But he's also shown the ability to go bang, 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 one after another, left, right, left, right, left, right. Good night.
And I think he's also added a bit to his game in the way for his takedown defense and in some of that wrestling pose as well, which allows him to then use more of his striking acumen. So yeah, it's pretty. I think he's improving as a fighter, and
he's more complete. You see, Bruce Buffer called him a street fighter. He's not no street fighter, man. He's in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He's in the most accomplished fighting league in the world, and he's getting his own.
Yeah, and should now be ranked. So where is he, Mr. Donkey?
Is he top 15?
So he's top 15.
Let's go!
13?
He pushed himself up to 11.
11. So
he's 11, baby.
So
he stole the 11th spot. So he's got that.
Good on him.
Off Sakai.
Good on him. And you know what? He's not scared of anyone. He will literally fight whoever Dana wants or whoever the UFC wants. Ty will take it. Did his whole camp over there. Hadn't come home.
Yep.
You know, quarantine and whatnot would have cost him 4 weeks. No, 2 weeks coming here. I don't know what their rules over there, but would have cost him some time. Yep. And obviously it paid dividends. Ty Tuivasa, watch out. The UFC is on notice. It's funny to see the Americans react to drinking a beer out of a shoe.
It's everyday kind of practice for us.
Yeah. It's, it's disgusting. Who knows where his feet's been. You guys also have 400 million guns in your country. Give me a beer out of a shoe anytime. I'd rather face that than an AR-15. We'll leave that at that. Bantamweight, 10 versus 8. Dominic Cruz gets the win against Pedro Munoz. Cruz jumps Marlon Moraes.
Yep.
Unanimous decision. Got fight of the night. Did you catch much of this one, Sean?
I didn't catch much of this one. I got all of the pay-per-view, though. I was happy to see Cruz also get a victory and continue his maybe play some of that, James. You've run through there. Continue kind of he's back into form after a long layoff. Got a couple of wins now. He had been in a little back and forth with O'Malley, and O'Malley I think is now ranked in 13th. We'll get to that in a minute. Do I think they put that fight together? No. I think Cruz needs a bit of a high-level opponent, but it'd be interesting to see who in that bantamweight division makes sense.
Well, Cruz goes up to 7th. So
yeah, I think that there's chat about Aldo and Sandhagen as two potential there for Cruz. Aldo, I think, is probably second fiddle now to a potential title fight, so I don't think Cruz is kind of there. Sandhagen, though, that's an interesting one that I'd happily watch. So, yeah.
5 and 6 there.
Good to see Cruz coming back into this.
Sorry to butt in. 5 and 6 there are Rob Font and Marab Develashvili. Marab.
Yeah.
So Cruz could possibly be looking at any of those guys. Munoz drops 2 spots down into 10th. And as you mentioned, Sean O'Malley finally has a ranking 13.
Yes. So then the last fight of the undercard was Josh Emmett taking on Dan
Ige. You wouldn't looking at that. I would say Ige.
Yeah, I remember from last week. So it's Ige. He did get the unanimous decision there, and is currently on a 4-fight win streak, and not bad for 36-year-old in the featherweight division.
Of them old boys.
Yeah. So did that bump him up at all in the rankings there in the featherweight? Yes, he's up to 6. So he gets 1 up there.
Emmett goes to 6. Ige stays in 9.
Yes. So the pay-per-view, let's get stuck into that, because what a pay-per-view full of potential, great fights. really started off the card well with a knockout. So we talk about Sean O'Malley. He kicks it off, gets a first round knockout, and his jab was fire. It was absolutely electric, and he really took this one here to get that win. Of course, we've talked about the social media. They absolutely love him. He did get the bonus as well. 3 consecutive fights since his loss to Vieira.
He doesn't count it as a loss.
No, so... But the big thing, officially ranked.
Officially ranked. Been a long time coming, 13th. A lot of noise around Sean not wanting to take guys possibly
well, he's got
better than him.
As we've talked, he's got a big following. He's making money through the Twitch game and through his social media as well.
Dana would love he loves him. He loves him.
He needs to be paid more if he wants to take more risk, essentially, is what he's saying. So he's now ranked. Hopefully he can get a ranked opponent and also get the dollars that follow that.
He must get a ranked opponent for mine. There's no point in him telling up guys.
Otherwise, he's a gatekeeper.
Exactly.
To me, that's kind of seems like a waste of talent. But then also, he's not really chasing legacy in here at the moment. It sounds like compared to some of the other competitors, but you never know.
You know who I'd like to see him fight?
Who?
Marlon Vera again. Because he claims he didn't lose that fight. Run it back. Vera's ranked 8th. Run it back. Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean.
That's a good jump for him.
Yeah.
He's a weird cat though. Let's be honest. Be honest. You were saying it's kind of he's channeling kind of a bit of Connor, a bit of Nate Diaz, a bit of I don't know, the guy that lives down the street that's a real weirdo that just smokes weed all day and thinks he can fight. But this guy actually can.
Yeah. He's talented.
He's a strange cat, and people love it. People love it.
Yeah, the competitor in me wants to see him push his talent. So
yeah, me too. I want to see. I want to see him go forward. I want to see him fighting ranked opponents. He deserves to be ranked, and good on him. He's I think his last 3 fights have been consecutive finishes. He hasn't gone the distance. He's really smashed his last 3 opponents.
Yep.
So yeah, would like to see a challenge for Sean and see if he really is. As good as he thinks he is.
Yep. So the next fight, we had the Kiwi France taking on Cody Garbrandt at flyweight.
Yep, Garbrandt going down, of course.
Yes. Looked good for the weight. Whether that made him acceptable or not, unsure, but he had a big KO in this one. And, of course, all the City Kickboxing gym guys were going absolutely nuts. He had Dan Hooker, of course, in his corner. Did get a 50K bonus.
Is he out of that gym too?
Yes.
So how about that? You rock up, it's your day-to-day job. You're just there, maybe it's your job to set up or clean or whatever.
Yeah.
And Israel Adesanya, Kaikara France, and Dan Hooker
and
are there.
Is Volk fighting out of that gym now as well?
He's been. I think he's the same. I think he stayed in America for his last fight and just came home.
Anyway, it's a elite gym come up for the Kiwis. Yep. So, but a huge win there, and we kind of looked past France in this one and wondered whether he'd actually be able to take Cody's power, but it went the other way, and whether the weight cut affected the chin of Cody. Cody's had a bit of a glass chin of late anyway.
Yeah. He's had a few losses.
He's 1-5, I think. He's still
a former champ, man.
He draws people in. He will definitely get fights. Whether flyweight makes sense for him going forward, unsure. But yeah, he's got to have to go back and have a look himself. But big for France in the division. Where's he currently sitting? Has he moved at all, Pepe?
Kaikara still at 6, according to UFC.com.
But a big win to put the eyeballs on him. So
definitely going in the right direction. A lot of chat about getting another UFC down under, whether or not it's in Sydney, whether or not it's in Auckland. Obviously, a lot of big names, coming out of the 2 Anzac nations.
Can you just double check? Because I think they just confirmed Izzy taking on Whittaker.
Adesanya, Whittaker, February. I don't think it's here. Yeah. It's probably to do with our stupid fucking politicians at Mark McCoward, as if it had ever been in your shit state.
Well, I think Whittaker actually did fight in Perth. Against Yoel, so
yeah. And was that before the spicy flu?
Yes, it was.
Thank you very much.
So
Location? Have we got a location on
Yep.
give us an answer.
Adesanya versus Whitaker?
The Toyota Center in Houston.
Yeah, last time I checked, Houston's not in Australia.
Also, yes, definitely agree on that. Jeff Neal, perhaps help me out with
Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Yeah, Jeff Neal did get the split decision on this, and this ended up being a bit of a technical stand-up, with Santiago kind of being a little bit more risky and trying to make it a bit more of a dogfight, whereas Neal kind of had lapses, like lull periods where he wasn't as active, but when he was crisp with his combinations, really good with his jab, but ended up getting the split decision in this and did do the more damage for mine throughout this one. Was the split decision not contagious? I'm thinking of COVID now. Contentious. Duck. It was... I think it was kind of fair. Like, he could have gone either way. The rounds were kind of close with that lull periods, as I mentioned. But I thought Neal was due the win in this one. And it was kind of an interesting one to put in here, but it was a competitive fight. So it didn't take anything away from what ended up being a very good pay-per-view.
Jeff stays at 12 and Santiago stays at 14. We did speak about it running into it. It seems to be a little bit of a recipe that Dana and the UFC are cooking up. Just slide kind of a less intriguing, lower ranked fight onto the main card. I think it's very deliberate. We saw a absolutely stacked undercard. The prelims were fire. I think it's a very intentional move from the UFC to try and get those eyeballs on early and then have... nothing against these blokes, but lower ranked and less appealing possibly than some of those fights beforehand.
Yeah, but it's also it gives them the potential, because this was a stand-up fight the entire time, to actually do something, showcase your wares.
Both warriors.
Eyeballs, as we talk about, and then build their name up, because it's hard to get into the top 10 and then be able to sell big fights if no one knows who you are. So this is the starting point for them.
Indeed. Speaking of... big names. And new Juliana Pena, the Venezuelan vixen. She has pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history.
Yeah, well, so you think of women's UFC, you think of Ronda and Holly Holm, so Rousey Holm as the biggest upset
in recent memory.
Well, in the women's division, and this is up there. They're 1 and 2. You think of the betting in this. Nunes was a plus 1,000 and a bit, which is $1.10 or a bit less in Australian money.
Less than, I think, when we saw it.
So it's
in real legal tender.
Yeah, so I would hate for anyone that tried to put anything big on that to try to make it a little bit back.
People will.
Yes.
People will throw big money on sure things in the multi world. Yeah. I did see a few bet slips that had Pena at about $8. So shout out to any punters that had a crack at that.
Sneaky
we
Tanner.
did compare it last week to Holm and Rousey, and we thought, look, it's not the same fight. Holm had a bunch of wins. There's no reason why she couldn't go out and beat Ronda like she did. Juliana, she was 2 and 2 from the last 4 fights. We thought, she's not going to go out there and beat arguably the best female fighter of all time. And she did.
Yeah, it kind of went that way to start with. Like the first round, you could see Nunes' power was backing up Pena. You could see that concern, but for whatever reason, Juliana was just like, I'm going to bite down this mouthpiece. And in the second round, they literally stood in the middle of the octagon and just threw whale punches at each other. And
did you think that was strange for Amanda to take that kind of fight on? Because you could see she was saying, "Fuck it, I'll throw haymakers. Let's go."
I think she was maybe too confident in her power, because that Cyborg Nunes fight was the exact same kind of thing, but the opposite reaction, where Cyborg was the aggressor and was kind of trying to get answers, but because she was getting tagged heaps and wanted to respond to that. Whereas in this case, it was Nunes. She was getting tagged heaps, wanted to try and respond and throw big haymakers. But Juliana just ate them all up and then kept throwing it back and just wilted Nunes. So whether there was a bit of how hard did Nunes train in this, how well was her gas tank in this, because she wilted in that second round.
Recent mother, as well, if that plays into it.
Juliana's a mother as well, but
Well, I think her kid's a little bit older. Yeah, sure.
There was some contention about that this week as well.
I'm not going into that.
No.
That's we'll put that in the drawer with Brett Finch. So
Label that drawer, never open this.
So I think there was, some chat about the cardio. Did she train really hard for that? Because also the tap, like it was barely.
It was quite quick.
Well, it was barely sunk in there. It was barely a squeeze going on. It looked very much like I've given everything I've got. I've got nothing left, and I'm in a really bad spot. And
it is easy to say that from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
If you do have someone on your neck and clamping down.
Well,
it's very different.
Yeah, well,
But
compared to what Volk went through against Ortega, where
Yeah, sure.
he was like, essentially
Twice.
the lights were dimming.
Twice.
This didn't look like that at all.
Yeah, agreed. But also, would I like to have Juliana Pena, on my neck, pull like
On your back,
debatable. Very debatable.
More conspiracies about that betting line as well, whether there's a dive in this, and we're not going to go into that at all. Hey, it's in the media, it's reported, whatever.
Report this, media.
Anyway, they'll run this back. There'll be a rematch.
Has to be.
There's no mandatories in the UFC like boxing, but this one, you've got the GOAT, as we talked about, of women's UFC. So give her some respect and run this one back and see what happens.
She deserves it, does she not?
Yeah.
5 years champ, 5 title defenses.
She'll train hard and
Probably the female GOAT.
They'll-
Chris Cyborg maybe comes into the conversation, but obviously Nunes did beat her.
So Kayla Harrison, I believe's her name, who's PF whatever that I
does she want to come across?
She's free agent at the moment. Is their champion? Was in attendance for this. I think they're probably more angling for the Nunes fight. So maybe Nunes is looking past Pena in this one. But I think that'll have to wait now. You'll have to run this back.
Agreed. Pena, Nunes 2. Be interesting to see if the arguable best female fighter of all time can reclaim her title. Yep. But who saw that coming? Definitely none of us.
No, not at all with that record coming into it. So, and it was like watching it was weird. It was a weird kind of, there was no technical fighting in it. It literally was like stood in the middle of the ring and wailed on each other. Yep. And Nunes was the one that wilted under that pressure. She thought probably was going to go the other way, knowing her record and her power, but give credit to Pena for her toughness and her chin in this, because she got beat up in it as well. They both took damage.
It's an interesting tactic to take, isn't it? Saying, I'm willing to cop a few punches in my face to try and punch you more in your face.
Yeah. Well, to stand my ground and to play that mental game a little bit.
Almost
It's like,
old Homer Simpson.
Yeah,
Homer Simpson taking on.
He never gets tired though. He never gets tired.
Drederick Tatum. I'll eat him. I'll murder his children. It's quite obviously Mike Tyson.
Yes,
great show. Not possibly the best cartoon show ever. You heard it here.
I like South Park more, but anyway,
interesting. South Park does go harder in the paint these days.
Very much so.
Seasons 1 to 10 of Simpsons hard to beat though.
Yes.
That's another podcast that we could talk for hours about, I'm sure. The other co-main event, Charles Oliveira defended his lightweight title against Dustin Poirier. The bookies had this one pretty close. We were kind of split trying to pick a winner out of this one. What happened with the illegal glove grab?
Well, let's run through it. So round one, it's very hard fought kind of round. Dustin's landing really good shots as well. Some nice hooks, and of course jabs, and that does get Oliveira. He knocks him down at that point, and then kind of gets into that wrestling spot there. But then for Oliveira to maintain his position at one point, and Herb's looking straight at it, he tucks his fingers inside the glove, so in the back of the glove, to hold on to Dustin's arm, so Dustin can't clear that position, which is illegal, of course. And all the commentators picked it out, but Herb, of course, missed it, and he held it for a good 20 seconds. Like, it was clear as day, and from that position, it really enabled Oliveira to move into the correct position to actually get the win. So I actually think that was towards the end of that third round there. So first round, Dustin was kind of ahead, and then for whatever reason he knocked down Charles, but same thing. Oliveira didn't want to go away. He stood his ground in that second round, really laid the pressure back on Dustin, landed a lot of really good shots as well. And I don't want to say Dustin wilted in this, but also he outfought him, started and really won that round handedly, the second round. And then the start of the third, I can't remember what started the sequence. I think Dustin probably got hit with one, but he ends up turning his back. Charles takes his back in the clinch. One guy you don't want on your back is Oliveira, who's got a really good jiu-jitsu background, and it didn't take long after that.
More than that, he is so elite with his BJJ.
Yeah, well, I think he's got the most subs in lightweight.
I believe that's
division,
correct.
so
Monks might be able to chase that one up.
He's got one of the best records in lightweight as well. After going, I think it was 10-9 through his first 19 in UFC.
Took his L's, learned from him.
Yeah.
You win or you learn.
Well, you look at all these guys recently, like Teixeira as well, and Peña, guys that have been up and down. You learn throughout the game. You learn a lot from a loss.
It's good to get beat up sometimes in life.
Yeah, so he's definitely kind of pushed himself and really showed his grit in this as well, to not fall under that pressure. The same thing happened against the Chandler fight. Chandler knocked him down.
Yep.
And then he came back into it in the second round. So whether he's found his, lion, whatever you want to call it, because in the past that 10-9 record, these kind of rounds would happen, and he'd collapse, he'd wilt, to keep using that word. But he really found his feet as the champion here, and really got a really good win against Dustin. Also got the 50K bonus. That's his first title defense. What's also really interesting for the lightweight division, because potentially he's going to get Gagey next. Oliveira's
he should get Gagey.
Yeah. And of that top...
That might be announced, making you work overtime again.
But also, what's really interesting is Oliveira's the only one that hasn't lost to Khabib in that top 5, 6, or 7. Like, everyone else in that division had actually lost to Khabib, whereas Oliveira hadn't.
It's an absolute travesty that Khabib retired when he did.
Yeah. For the sport, not for Khabib. For the sport, yes.
For everything. For the idiots that like to have a few beers on Friday night and talk about it. Yeah. Where would Khabib be? Didn't have that many title defenses. Is he the best of all time?
Yeah. Undefeated record, but again, too many questions left unanswered. He's
gone too soon.
Yeah. He needed to do the Tom Brady and be unquestioned. He's the GOAT, and Belichick's just as good as the coach we thought. He's the GOAT coaching.
He's gone the other way.
They've agreed.
He's gone the Jimi Hendrix, the Kurt Cobain way, taken too soon. Yes. The fans, they want to see more Khabib, but
of course.
Who knows? Charles Oliveira, it's interesting. A good ground game, it seems, will beat a good stand-up fighter. We've seen it with Poirier, Gaethje up next, and very similar.
Well, they're all scared of it as well. Gaethje's got a wrestling background, but none of them will want to go into that realm with Oliveira. They will take their chances on the feet. And Oliveira's got crisp hands. He's got a lovely uppercut. Gaethje is a bit of a mad dog warrior, but also has been very composed of late. So I think that's another excellent fight.
I wouldn't say that Gaethje Chandler fight was composed. That was fake.
Well,
that was lefts and rights.
True, they did go after each other, but also are composed in the way that Gaethje didn't get drawn too much into the complete gunfight, where he picked his moments, as in he just wasn't going forward, wailing, head down like he had been in the past. Where that's how he lost to Dustin, I believe.
Sure.
Going in there and then getting caught with one you weren't expecting. So either way, the lightweight division's stacked with killers.
It's massive. Yep.
Yeah. So I think have they booked that, James? I think it's next.
They have not booked it, not yet. By all accounts, Oliveira is trying to chase down McGregor.
That cash.
That's cash fight. Well, that's easy money at this point. And I think Dustin, potentially Nate Diaz in January is been thrown around in the
As
socials.
soon as January.
Yeah. No, I think Nate tweeted, Dustin's like, hey, I'll fight him in January. And Dustin's like, sure, we'll do it. Send us the paperwork. And then they were talking about, oh, you're going to bitch you out. You're going to bitch you out. Rada, rada.
Wouldn't mind seeing Dariush or Makachev taking on one of these boys. You know,
Another guy in
climbing
that
the ranks.
Yep.
Funny just how many eyeballs go to Conor McGregor, you know, obviously going the wrong direction in terms of results.
Well, the story is that if he beats Oliveira, then that sets up the fight with Islam, who's Khabib's the coach of, I believe.
Yep.
So as in,
Pakistani.
you build that storyline up a little bit there of a coach and pupil going to take on the bad man that is Conor McGregor. Anyway, the only really UFC fight of note coming up is Derek Lewis is taking on Chris. How do you say Chris's last name?
Dorcas.
In the heavyweight division. That's leading into Nagano taking on Gain in January, which is UFC 270.
Yep, month away.
Yep.
Good card, that.
Yes, it does look like a very good card. Also, go back, Wonderboy, Cub, Swanson, also on that fight night. Some good names there too. So we'll cover all of that and more once we get closer to those fights coming up.
Just some random UFC news before we kick on. For all the shit we've been giving Herb Dean and all the bad calls we've pointed out the last couple of months, apparently he won the Ref of the Year for MMA.
He adjudicates a lot of fights.
He does.
Yeah, a lot of fight, and it's
a tough call.
Yeah,
it's tough. You've got to make a split second decision if someone's going to lose consciousness or not.
Yeah, and to talk about the legal glove grab on the monitors for the commentators, for everyone on the TV to see, it's pride in place. Right in the front there, but where Herb's...
Hard to see that off the camera.
Exactly, where Herb's standing, he's also not really looking at that. He's probably looking more at where Dustin's arm is, and is he in a perilous position where potentially he's getting armbarred. That's what he cares more about. He's got to maybe out of corner of the eye pick up on that, but it's not... His duty of care for the fighters is his number one priority, and then the other stuff is secondary. So, like you say, split decision... Decisions within seconds is always a challenge.
Yeah. Indeed.
They do a tough job.
They do.
That'll wrap up our UFC coverage for this week. The last topic we want to cover is some F1. Obviously, it's...
Looking forward to it all week.
The boys to my right and my left, it is your forte. I'm going to go for a quick bathroom break, but you take it away, please, Sean and Muggs.
Yes. Muggs, do you want to restart those highlights? Everyone's probably seen the results in the news. We'll run through the race and the key moments probably from the race. But it was the Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton final race. Winner takes all.
It was.
And, they started 1 and 2. Max was on pole. Lewis was second. And what an absolute fucking great race it ended up being. Give me some high-level thoughts, James, before we jump into some of the core moments.
Well, yeah, very... very exciting, very contentious at the end. So really the start and end was everything everyone's talking about. Everything in between,
I really didn't focus on anything else that happened in this race besides what was happening with 1 and 2.
If you want to, I
couldn't tell you any of the other results. I think Bottas finished somewhere good. But besides that, none of it else mattered. It was all focused on Lewis and Max. And what the storylines are. I think for a race, if you're going to make a movie about a race, this is the one you'd make it about, because the storylines throughout the entire thing was kind of really got you engaged and brought you back in. And I don't want to say it was some bits felt staged, but it's just the way it kind of flowed. Like it just happened exactly like it would in a script.
Like everything that has happened between these two drivers, Hamilton and Verstappen, throughout the entire season, happened again within this one race. So this one race was like a culmination of everything, of the entire season for him. Right from the point of they were both on exactly the same points. So you had to beat the other person to win the championship.
Yep.
To all of the racing on the field, all the pit changes and all that sort of stuff, the strategies behind it. It was like, yeah, absolutely crazy. Even to that, like, to you talking about movies, like I've already seen people saying, I can't wait for season 4 of that Netflix Drive to Survive.
Drive to Survive, like the end of the season
this
celebration.
Season is going, next season's that show is going to be crazy.
Because like we've already had some of the interesting radio messages that came from the drivers at the end of the race. We'll get to that in a minute.
The entire field,
But yeah, it's been crazy, kind of the reactions from this race in the F1. So there's probably 3 big moments. As any good story, beginning, middle, and end. So if we start off with the first moment from this race, which was lap 1, Lewis gets the way better start than Max. Does take
Max
the
was
lead
very slow
on the first corner. But then Max, of course, has got slipstream going into the long straights, and then takes the dive and the lunge. I think that's turn 5 from memory.
5 or 6,
So what was interesting is Max stays on the course here, and we've just got it playing for us.
Yeah.
He doesn't cross over the white lines. He's got position. And then Lewis, of course, as you can see, is running down the road here after being pushed wide.
Yeah. It looks like wheels touch.
They don't touch.
No, they don't.
So they don't end up touching. What I thought was interesting is Lewis takes a really nice angle for himself to drive away from the corner and give himself a nice big lead.
Yeah.
But in Brazil, they kind of set the precedent that if you'd stayed on the track and gone off, you'd have to give the place back, which Max had to do for Lewis in that race.
Is that a rule or is it etiquette?
You cut a corner.
It's both essentially, and the stewards will get involved and say, "Hey, give that position back." So by all accounts, Max was probably, my thoughts here, he was in the right here. He stayed on the racing track. It was a deep lunge.
Yes.
Lewis potentially could have also stayed closer to the corner instead of taking much of an advantage. I don't think he really gave that advantage back. I think he backed off in a corner where they would have got the timing down to being close, but then would have accelerated out and regained that gap, being strategic as they do. But I thought Max was entitled to that position, and I think it was a wrong call not giving.
It was very strange.
Max the position back.
Very strange. It didn't. Yeah, I never saw. Hamilton was in front the whole time, and he didn't look like he was.
Yeah, he seemed to maintain that 2-second gap the entire time. So that's why I think like it must have been a corner or something where they both came slowed into the corner, so that. It looked like he'd given up the time, so it was back to like a 1-second gap. But then he's accelerated away, which then doesn't give back anything there. Plus, it didn't put Hamilton behind Max where he probably should have been. Where they could then fight it out again. So,
taking that corner, if Hamilton didn't run off, Max would have taken the corner and would have been in first place. So, he definitely was. It was definitely pretty light on in terms of. I guess any sort of repercussions from that.
Yeah.
And I suppose we'll touch on the aftermath of the race. But it was kind of reminiscent of last week where the race director, Michael Massey, was like...
Australian, by the way.
Yeah. Not that we might want to distance ourselves.
We haven't shouted him a bit
out.
But yes.
No, yeah. Where it was sort of like very vague, very ambiguous, like, gave the advantage back, keep driving sort of thing.
Yeah. Win it on the road, essentially, which I think might have played into some of the later conversations, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the second kind of really big moment throughout this race was Checo, because so Sergio Perez, because from that, Lewis and Mercedes are dominating. They're winning through the pit strategy. They clearly got the faster car. They've got a 10-second gap on Max. But Red Bull have strategically left Perez out and put him in a position where Lewis is going to have to overtake him.
Yeah.
So Lewis has come right up onto him, and everyone's saying he should probably breeze past him. Better tires. Perez's tires have cooked. that's going to, it'll be an easy overtake for Lewis. But Perez, ultimate teammate, does an absolute fantastic job keeping Lewis behind him to the point that I think at the point it was probably about 7-second gap because Verstappen was coming back at Lewis at this point. The 7-second gap, he closed it all the way down to Max being right behind Lewis. So really, really expert driving and really ballsy driving. We'll see the highlights here in a minute.
But it's right here.
I think, and Max after the race said, huge thanks to Checo for doing that job. Like, it was super impressive the way he kind of brought that into play, bringing the race closer. Again, added more intrigue to this, the teamwork, the strategy part of it. Again, going to my point about this being a bit of a movie here. You need a supporting act for Max to even get considered in the potentially winning this, because Lewis is driving away with it at this point. He's got the lead and really pushing it. So Monks, what did you think of Checo?
Yeah, no, great. I mean, I sort of mentioned it last week. This track definitely seemed to favour Mercedes with their quick engine. Not so much Red Bull, where they do benefit from the exactly. Checo to be able to hold out Hamilton for so long to let Max sort of catch up. Superb.
Because he did it. You can see here he did an excellent job maintaining position in the straights. To then also maintain the lead within the straights. So then during the corners, he could burn off a lot of extra speed, which is very hard for to be overtaken in that spot anyway. So Lewis is kind of getting blocked essentially. There's a little bit of gamesmanship in this point as well, but also I'd say the teamwork in that there's the sportsmanship side of it. It's like Checo's essentially throwing his race away here at this point to try and put Max in a position, because he's 8 seconds behind here now with Lewis, and it was just impressive driving for mine, because there's like the DRS to come on a big straight, should be job done. And, the way Checo kind of put that car in, really big dive after getting overtaken as well to regain that position was really impressive. So, and then boom, straight back down, maintains it. Like, it was such a fiery kind of race, and then keeps it here, and he's slowing it down all the while.
I think even on radio, Hamilton said, this is dangerous driving. So just to prove the point of how aggressive Sergio was in trying to make sure that he kept in front of Hamilton for as long as possible.
I'm still amazed and impressed at what a job he did, essentially to burn off a full 8-second gap in an F1 against the two best drivers in the world.
That's it.
Madness. It was, and it's slowing him all the while down, and you just see the seconds just ticking down, and then Max just appearing on the straight towards there. Another awesome storyline in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the start of the season with Sergio joining the team. Like, normally you see someone from AlphaTauri or the development squad team coming up and taking that second seat to Verstappen. So to bring someone else,
people were worried about him leaving F1, like he wasn't going to get a seat for this year, and then he's done an excellent job at Red Bull, and then to defend this whole way here. Just the sight. There you go. The sight here of in a moment where they're going down the straight, and then you just see Max in the background chasing them down. And Lewis is going to get Perez at some point. He gets him here, but just to see Max is there in the background, you're just like, wow, game on, race on. Again, that still works perfectly into their favor. Like, Verstappen's being able to close the gap to get within Perez's slipstream. And then that's just the stepping stone for him. He needs to chase down Hamilton. So people will say Hamilton then drives away from Max in this. Like, he regains and is the faster car, and then is taking away. But the main kind of gain that this gave Max was to be in the pit window. And I think, Max, you might want to skip some of the highlights from here on out, because they kind of held station here, 1 and 2, chasing each other. There was a virtual safety car throughout, because I think it was either Mazepin or Schumacher's. Antonio Gino. Oh can't even say his last. Giovinazzi
Nice.
car finished, so they had to do a virtual for that. So he got tyres in that space there. Lewis maintained, of course. Track position didn't change his tyres. So Verstappen's still chasing, but can't really get any closer. Besides staying in that kind of pit window, which would always make it difficult for Hamilton to make a tyre stop. And very much, I think it was lap 50, they were talking to Christian Horner on the radio. They were down by 10 seconds at this point.
Well, it was lap 38 out of 58. Verstappen was 22 seconds behind Hamilton with that pit stop.
Yeah.
And in traffic as well.
In traffic, and he's worked his way back. So
A second lap.
Yeah. So this is the big incident. This is lap 55, but lap 50, they're talking to Christian Horner on the commentary on the blower, and he basically said, they're doing excellent. We're really trying our best here. They're much faster than we are. We really need a miracle. Enter Nicholas Latifi on lap 55 to be that miracle, to have a big crash, calls in a full safety car because they need to move the car, move all the debris. Max pits instantly. There it is, the big crash. Max pits instantly for his tyres and then comes back out of safety car. I think just give the replay of the actual smish.
Yeah, so Hamilton here's already crossed past pit entry and the start line, really.
Yep.
So he's on his next lap, and then he doesn't have the opportunity to pit.
No. So I don't think they'll show the highlight there of the crash. They'll just show the aftermath.
Accident or fishy?
No, the back tyres slipped out on him and he went straight in the wall. Like, it was
Accidental.
not something he'd want to be doing for
No.
Latifi.
It has happened before in Singapore. I can't remember who it was. I think Alonso might have been involved. Someone crashed so that someone could win the championship, but the person who crashed was on the same team as the person who won.
Not this one, Latifi.
This isn't.
So this is Mercedes' worst nightmare, of course, a safety car to finish this race off, because Max jumps straight in, gets the super softs, the best tyres they could, stickiest tyres they could put on for the rest of this racetrack. There's 5 official laps to go to finish off the race. They have to get the car. They got to clear the car out, Latifi's car that is, to then regain racing. So they got to stay behind the safety car. So the reason Mercedes didn't come in, they didn't want to lose track position, but also they weren't sure if the race would restart. So if they lose track position and they get tyres and they're actually second to Max, there might not be any laps in there. So there's a lot of risk and reward in this. So Red Bull, of course, took the big risk in this. The big story, though, was after the pit stop, Hamilton's won. Max is second, but there's 5 cars in between them. So as in back markers, lap cars. So cars get through.
No.
But it has
Has the word any.
But
Normally you do let all back markers go through.
And Massa had used in a race last year to say it had to be all cars, and everyone was slamming him for taking so long behind the safety car. So what they do is they leave the back markers to go through between the cars, but not all the ones behind it. So Daniel Ricciardo, who's in third here, to watch this spectacle, is not in position. He's essentially running 12th at this point. So it leaves it's a 1-2 tussle between Hamilton for Max for one flying lap to finish the race. Max maybe slightly pulls ahead, but doesn't gain an advantage. It lets Lewis also had slowed to almost stop. He's crawling,
braking very heavily.
Yeah, to kind of trying to throw them off. But then they've got one final flying lap to go. Max is on the better tyres. But they've got to compete at this point. That's my kind of point. There's still racing to be had. Max has got to get a job done here.
Still half a second behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
which is a long way in Formula One.
Bloody oath it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
0.44 for those listening at home.
He takes a really early dive, though, on Hamilton, which I thought was kind of interesting. I thought he might use the DRS more, but he's got it here because then Hamilton has DRS on the bonus on the straight. So
you don't get DRS after safety car.
True, sorry. But he gets the slipstream. So he took the lead position. I guess you want track position. Hamilton goes wide through the first straight, and still is really close to Max here and closing. I don't know why Lewis didn't. Like, Max had the door closed, but when he starts going out, Max comes across. I would have thought maybe that inside line is the only line he could have potentially taken to get that position back. By this point, Lewis has essentially given up. He's like, Max, I can't beat him from here. They're the corners. I could potentially do it. And Max runs away to win the race. After Lewis had, I think, led almost every single lap so far. And to be world champion, Max being world champion.
First time for him. Under 25, I'd say. I can't remember if he's 23 or not, but super young.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he's 23.
Yeah. Prevents Lewis from getting his 8. The scenes, though, the Red Bull guys going crazy. They got their miracle in the end. I guess couple points to talk about. What do you think about the decision of letting the race cars go? They're letting the lap drivers between them go.
Yeah.
So you get a flying last lap race.
I don't mind it. I think it happened too late.
Yeah, maybe make that decision a little bit earlier.
You have to make that decision a lot earlier. You can't, you got to let them race for the championship. You can't let this championship end in a safety car.
Yeah.
So I reckon,
I also agree on the racing point there. If they restart the last lap anyway, and they got 5 back markers there, they got to get out of the way of blue flags. You probably don't get the spectacle.
Yeah,
people want to see racing, and they want to see races. I think Michael Massey's done the world a solid here to get a result. Like, everyone will be pissy about regulations. The fans will be pissy, but the absolute spectacle, one last lap, do or die, see who wins to get the result. Like, it was an amazing final lap, an amazing kind of end to what ended up being a pretty interesting race throughout.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was great spectacle. It is unfortunate that there has been so much controversy surrounding it, especially being
the appeals, etc., etc.
I guess
they withdrew the final one today, so they no formal.
Yes,
it's done and dusted. Max
That's
won
it.
the championship, so they can't give it back or anything like that.
No, and it's rough to see the season end with so much controversy, but it is great that they'll at least have that final lap.
But what a spectacle
race!
Ended on an absolute spectacle.
Unbelievable.
Watching it live, I couldn't believe it. But again, I'll go to the storylines, the movie-esque, the quotes throughout. We need a miracle. We got a miracle. and the clearing of the cars. Give us the final lap.
And the draw for the casual fan, like myself, it got me intrigued. It got me really intrigued.
Yeah, that's good. So hopefully, it sets up for a great season next season.
And Lewis signed that 3-year deal. He's going to be back next year chasing his 8th.
Well, Toto, I think, came out last couple of weeks saying it was more just comments as to whether or not
he was pissed,
Hamilton,
by the way. He's absolutely pissed about the result in this.
He was, still is. I did see. That being said, Mercedes did win the Constructors' Championship, and I think I did see some stuff on social media. They were partying, they were clubbing, and Toto was very happy at those parties. But I think he's sort of said it's obviously hit Hamilton hard, so he doesn't know what will happen next season. I'm sure Hamilton will come back.
He's an absolute competitor.
He wants that 8th championship at the very least.
Plus new cars, like the new challenge. It'd be really interesting to see.
Plus Sir Lewis.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a second.
So he's got George Russell as his teammate as well.
Yeah,
which will be interesting. Great running partner, but then also there will be a lot of pressure, a lot of competition within that garage as well.
Yes.
But that leads on to, I suppose, Sir Hamilton now.
Well, the final notes. Kimi Raikkonen's he retired on the 20th lap, I believe, with car failure. So
he essentially retired himself.
He retired himself.
Put the feet up.
That's it.
He's heading to the sauna.
The fans did him a solid, though. He did get driver of the day. So that was really good to see. But like you said, Lewis Hamilton, he was announced to be knighted months ago, but he officially had his knighting happening. Of course, the season's over, so he could go home and get that done. So he's been officially now Sir Lewis Hamilton for his...
Quite young to get knighted, you think?
Yeah, well, for his service to motorsport and then the platform he uses to do all his, charity work, etc. So some other kind of interesting notes. They were 1 and 2, and I think nearly every race, but a couple of them. Only one team had a 1-2 this year, and that was McLaren with Ricciardo and Norris in Monza, which is kind of a bit different considering Mercedes really dominated the Constructors' Championship and how dominant those two teams were. So, honestly, I thought it was a fitting end to a really good season of close combat and close racing. So to see it end that way, I think amazing.
Yeah. Again, like I would have liked to have seen I'll give him 2 laps of racing to try and make it look or feel a little bit more competitive. I don't know what Mercedes' appetite would have been to pit and put new softs on. Even to that, so the FIA had their awards night.
I heard this was a shit show.
Yeah. Well, so Mercedes didn't send through any of the winning championship cars, so FIA being all of motorsports. So they didn't send any of their cars to the presentation. And then, Hamilton was probably busy within the time frame of the awards ceremony, but neither Hamilton or Toto went to the awards nights in a little bit of a protest. Was there any other news?
Well, there wasn't a huge amount of massive other news besides that. I think Max, of course, got his trophy. I think Lewis was most popular driver or something like that. Got a vote. Of course, wasn't there to get his award. And I guess back onto the FIA, and they're doing they're doing a full review. There'll probably be new rules in regards to safety car, and potentially Michael Massa will lose his job as the scapegoat from all this. So
one change that I have already made is there'll be less or no radio between the race director and the teams during the race. So during the race, we did hear both Christian Horner and Toto getting onto...
It's interesting because they do a lot of talking beforehand. We now see more of the talking because they were providing that audio to the audience through Sky TV, through Sky Race TV, whatever it is, the British guys that have F1. So they had access to that so they could play some of that radio. But I thought that it kind of added to the intrigue with Toto Wolff going, no, don't do this to us. And then Christian Horner kind of trying to answer of what's going on? Why haven't they given this position back? I think that adds to it.
It does add to it, but I think that was also starting to influence decisions in the race. And I think we did see that in the last couple of races.
We saw it last race where Michael Massey said, I can't push I can only push buttons fast enough. So
that's it. So, maybe
it needs to be more than one person's job. I don't know.
Maybe. Don't know.
Just going back to the list of youngest people to be knighted. In the sporting arena, Andy Murray is younger than Lewis Hamilton. But pretty hard pressed finding another one younger than that.
Yeah.
And with that, I think that ends the podcast for this week. That's all the sport and all the news we wanted to cover. It's been excellent as always. Thank you for everyone that tuned in and commented throughout. We do very much appreciate it. Any final thoughts from the other boys on the table?
Go Australia for one. Let's smoke these Poms. Looking forward to obviously some Sunday NFL here down under. And what do you reckon, boys? We'll have a show next week and then maybe take a week off for Christmas.
Take a break.
Yeah, no, sounds like a good plan.
Sounds like a good plan. Everyone, leading up into the festive season, thank you very much for listening to our podcast, our first year trying to do this. We appreciate the support. We hope that you're all well leading into the festive season and you're able to kick back, enjoy a bit of sport and listen to these three dribblers talk some dribble.
So then I was just checking if there's any major news stories. One that may be kind of interesting, Bailey Smith is going to take taking indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons. So hopefully he's okay and doing all right.
Thinking of Bailey Smith, an absolute superstar of the game, a young superstar, has spoken about his mental health before. Hopefully he gets himself into a good spot leading into the 2022 season, but not just in a footballing sense, just in terms of life.
Yeah, definitely.
There is more to life than sports, I suppose. Thank you, boys. I appreciate it. Thank you to those that have stuck with us through 3 and a bit hours.
Yep.
We'll see you next week. We will have a wrap-up of the second test, a preview of the Boxing Day test, a look at the NFL, the NBA, the EPL,
everything else.
F1 and UFC's done for the year, baby. So possibly a shorter show. But we do appreciate our listeners. We do appreciate any of the support. And if you're still with us, obviously, hit that subscribe button. Check us out on Instagram and tell a friend. Tell your mum and dad. Check it out. The Esky. We'll see you next week.
Yes. Goodbye.